but there.
At the podium.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We are just in time for a beautiful sundowners here in South Africa. We welcome you to the OR Tambo International Airport serving Johannesburg, where Delta Flight 200 is now complete.
This is strange.
Who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. This
You know,
is
you pimping Mountain Dew.
Jay.
I get my 3%.
You do the do?
I've done the do. I don't actively do the do.
You don't do the do actively.
Baja Blast. If you're at
Ugh.
if you're at
Dude,
church,
that's poisonous. That's like
Taco
ugh.
Bell is your church. That makes a lot of sense.
When was the last time you had a good Taco Bell?
Church,
The drive home from Griffin and Howe, like
Oh,
yesterday.
I
did
haven't
you
had
get Baja Blast?
No, man, I don't do that.
Can you only get Baja Blast at the Taco Bell?
I'm not
Yeah.
7.
No. You used to only be able to, but they sold it in cans for a little bit. I remember when I was at SIG, this
Are
lady
you
walked in.
dying?
Yeah, I fucking breathed that in.
Aspirated it.
Yeah,
again.
exactly.
Respirated another hair.
Yeah, I aspirated something. Yeah, but when I was at SIG, this lady walked in with like 2 racks of Baja Blast in cans for herself, which aside it is fucking gross.
So she
Whatever.
was on a health kick.
Yeah, she was. It was beach season. She was working on it.
The first sip of Baja Blast, you're like,
Yeah,
all right. But then you take 3-4 more
Yeah.
sips and you got diabetes.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
But it's like the cardinal rule: if you go to Taco Bell, you gotta have Baja Blast.
All right.
It's like a law or something.
All right. So this is strange
Yeah. it
that
is
I'm sitting
strange.
right here.
Well,
Usually I'm sitting over there on the other side of
it's-
this camera.
It's got
right
to
here.
feel way stranger for you than it does for me and Jay.
Well, because I'm always here. I've been here since episode 28. Every single episode that has come out, I have been involved with.
Well, every episode does come out on video.
The podcast has been fantastic. I'm super happy with it. It's been growing. Jay tells me. I don't pay attention to any of the analytics or anything.
You know, don't get hung up in that because, you know, it's probably like Instagram where all these wannabes can buy the followers. But I can tell you when we've got the people that contact me or text me every week when a podcast comes out and who those people are, you know, and a lot of it is, I mean, it's the content, the quality of guests that we have on here. We're reaching the right people who we want to reach. And it doesn't have to be, you know, anything other than that.
Absolutely. We have a cult following. We have, like, there's people.
But the cult is like every group, if you made stuff that we make that you would ever want to see your stuff, watches the podcast. And that is more than I could hope for. So that's incredible.
We talked about it when we were either going to New Jersey or on our way back, but like just the caliber of people that we have on the podcast, and it ranges from veterans to guys in the gun, directly in the gun industry, to guys that are 2A adjacent, like Kilo and tactical distributors, whatever. Like, there's a little bit of something for everyone, but every single person that we've had on is a hitter in their area. And I think people are learning from it. It's not just an entertainment podcast.
Well, it's interesting even when we talk about having our buddy Jose on.
Yeah.
And his we got to redo his since Tom blew the video.
I
since
fucked that one up.
28.
Fucked that one up. Whoops. I get one or two to fuck up.
I was gonna say I was about to throw another one on you, but since you
I'm just a person, Kevin. Just a fucking. I'm
really?
just a guy.
Because a minute ago you were a multi-hat god, and now here we are, just a person.
I wear a couple hats. Yeah.
Anyway, but even having Jose, where he can remember and tell stories from, you know, advanced armament, in kind of its heyday when he came in, where he went from his first job as stocking the shelves in a grocery store, then he comes to work for us. You know, that's what I love to see. He was like a young dude who wasn't jaded, was so freaking happy to be just working at a gun company. And then he was there through all that stuff, you know, like the purchase and then where they went nuts and, you know, threw me out and just all the crazy shit that that they did. And then once it kind of closed down, him going over to Baja, just such an interesting story from another perspective. You know, it doesn't always have to be the guy who's the command master chief of SEAL Team 6 or the head of the NRA or whatever it is, you know, and even Wayne Weber, what a great podcast that was. But, you know, you can learn just from, like, Jose, his very first real job, and he has so many great stories, and it's history that a lot of people are interested in that I've forgotten most of that, honestly, because, you know, I wanted to probably.
Yeah. That's been my favorite part about this whole experience, like this podcast, is all the people that, you know, we have on here. Like, we have such a broad spectrum of people that have come on, and, you know, I'm not like a gun person, you know, and you guys know that I'm not a gun guy. I'm an artist for hire. That's what I do. But the people that I've met and the stories I've heard, like, I've learned so much from, like, so many people. It's just amazing. Like, you know, we have actual, like, real hard, like, warrior dudes who are somehow the nicest people you've ever met in your life.
I mean, Bill Rapier, holy crap.
Yeah.
What a gentleman.
Wonderful human being.
Yeah.
But all those guys, Lou Goodman, Tom Smith, that's not his real name at all.
Hopefully a fake name.
But, like, all these guys, like, you know, you hear these stories and it's just fascinating. It's just like, and I'm sitting over there on the other side of that camera, like, I'm just, you know, listening to these guys tell these crazy stories and like a perspective that we have no idea about. And it's just like,
well, yeah, because you guys, you know, you get to hear before we even record where they tell stuff that they're not going to say on camera.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just how crazy it is. But then it's all, you know, they retire, they're here and they're normal dudes, you know, they like hunting, their husbands, their fathers, you know, just doing normal stuff, you know, taking kids to sporting activities, doing the thing, you know, just coming back to normal life. What a crazy transition that is. But they have the experience of using all this equipment and oftentimes, you know, developing it. Then I think that's an interesting perspective because now we see social media and we can see the Q haters and the, 15 to 22-year-old kids that know everything. And, I attract a lot of that and, I love that. That's fine. But then when you see these guys and where they're from and, how long we've been friends with them and worked with them and things that we've done, whether it's, just me and Ethan or it's Q or it's the old company and the respect there and that it's, that's not something you're going to buy with an ad or buying followers on Instagram or, whatever it is. So, and just like Wayne Weber and his story in that podcast, how great that was,
He's unreal. We have to do a part 2.
Yeah, we got to do
him
a part.
And Chris.
Him and Chris Barrett. And I love doing these too because a lot of it for me is, I never had a historian. I take a lot of notes now, but I never did back then. You take it for granted because I was young with advanced armament. And whether it's talking to Wayne or Lou Goodman or, Tom or whoever, John Clements, like I forget a lot of the things that we did. And they help to remind me, and it gets me excited and thinking about all the things that we actually did. And, from my perspective, I don't know, it's probably like when I don't know, a while back I pulled up a song on YouTube or whatever of Hours North. And it was from like 2017. You're like, don't listen to that. It was 2017. I didn't even know how to sing.
I didn't. I sucked bad at 2017.
But, I think it's the thing with any, whether it's, any sort of art or creative process, whether it's music or, like me with drawing and my art or, firearm stuff where I've done design. When you look back, you're like, oh, God, I can't believe. But at the time, advanced armament, we earned everything on merit. I didn't hire these guys when they were tired. We didn't have an end like that. Like everything we did was on merit. And I look back at it now and I'm like, it's some of the stuff that we did back in the day when I was designing and engineering stuff. And, and now I know the importance of actual engineering as a result of, not other companies' failures. I like to point them out because they get so much hype behind them because, appealing to, this subreddit crowd. But, I pointed out because we have engineers for a reason because I used to be like that.
Right.
And I was doing that and winning those contracts. And then, looking at it now and thinking, oh, man, I don't want to be judged on stuff I did 10 years ago or 15 or 20 years ago. I want to be judged on the stuff we're doing now and tomorrow.
Yeah.
And, but it's hard, whether it's a company or it's music or anything. Like it's documented now. Like I forget about all my stuff. When I started Advanced Armament, I had never even been on the internet. So you think about that. Like you kids grew up with social media and all. And that's where I think about too. It's going to be interesting when, in 2 years from now when Facebook and Instagram and all these social media platforms kill everything gun-wise.
Right.
To me, it's the only marketing we do. So we'll host our own stuff and that'll be fine. But I actually kind of look forward to it in this sense. Like, as an American, I hate it because it's bullshit and it's restricting freedom. But the other side is, I started my first company and we didn't have these things. Yeah. And I don't know how all these young kids that know every fucking thing that have companies now are going to survive. Like you guys have had social media or whatever probably since the time you were born or old enough to know.
No, we're in like we're
internet
in like
at least.
Well, we're in a decent gray area where we.
You're like 24.
Yeah, well, I'm 26 and he's 27. But like growing, I didn't have a cell phone until I was in like high school maybe. So like
we only got social media like
because you guys are from Maine.
Starting in like no.
Right, that's why. Yeah.
We got social media starting in like high school. That's when it kind of really kicked off the way it is.
I remember like MySpace in the later part of junior high, right before high school. So like I remember it starting. So we had an area of we got the beginning of it.
You were in high school like 8 years ago.
Yeah. Even if Facebook and Instagram, which is the same thing, ultimately, even if they kill the gun community online, it'll find a way. People have a passion.
Well, it's just the things that you've already done before. Whether it's, even if there's no print article, like there's video games, there's movies, there's word of mouth, there's everything. Like
but I look forward to these challenges because what I see a problem with social media now is, and I guess to some degree it's the reason, I can attract haters because I can, whatever. Be like the Bobby Knight. Well, you guys probably don't know who that is. Of our industry, who's the Indiana basketball head coach that choked the fuck out of a young smart ass in practice last
That's kind of cool.
But he just always in like post game stuff and all, they'd ask him stupid questions. He'd just call the reporters a fucking idiot. I mean, but with our stuff, it's easy for all these kids that have never done a fucking thing to hear something from somebody else, like never use a product, and then. Not only do they have an equal voice, but they've never done anything. They have lots of time, and they're fucking kids. So their voice is actually really big because they can go all over the internet and spread shit. But when social media, when that robot Zuckerman has his way and kills all the gun stuff.
Zuckerman.
That's his name.
Yeah, Zuckerman.
What is his name?
Zuckerberg.
Whatever. Fucking idiot. But when it kills it all, then all these little kids are going to panic because, what are they going to do? Go to mom and dad like, I don't have a voice anymore. Yeah. Like, I had a voice, it's gone. Like, fuck those guys, man.
Fuck those guys.
I don't want anybody telling me what to do.
Right.
Like Tactical Distributors, Unpossible 15 gets you 15% off. But
Battle Briefs.
Oh my God. The thing is, it's like, that's just a cool company. It's just like Reptilia. Reptilia, we just did the podcast with them, and Eric, I hired him away from Magpool. Him and Ethan did the honey badger, did all kinds of stuff. Like, I just love Eric and Nick and what they're doing, and I want to support them. Like, I don't know, what do they do? Give us mounts and we give them guns? Like, it's probably not. It's something I want to be associated with, and that's like Tactical Distributors. When you start taking money from them and they make a shit product, I'll tell you what, if Reptilia makes a shit product, I'm going to call them out in a second. And, because it's like I posted a thing the other day, their little cutie cup attachment for M-Lock, and that is adopted by a foreign ally for their special forces. Like, I hate QD cups. I hate QD sling attachments, but they're still very popular. Right. If you have to have one, that's a cool one.
Yeah.
And you can tell Eric and Ethan work together. Ethan is about simplicity, lightweight, strong. Eric is an industrial designer, but a brilliant kid. So him working with Ethan was a great combination for me. That was a hell of a tag team. It was like Hawk and Animal, the Road Warriors.
Road Warriors.
Because Eric understands like making things simple and beautiful, and Ethan was able to really educate Eric on designing for strength and mechanical engineering standpoint. And Eric really influenced Ethan. Like, the stuff that Ethan designed has always mechanically been incredible, but it's like he's colorblind to, but I don't know what you would say, but
like the aesthetics.
To aesthetics.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't even make sense to him. So it was like a much more difficult process for Ethan to learn to make things not hideous than it was for Eric to learn the mechanical stuff working with Ethan every day. So, it's like our homies that make good stuff. I don't want to take money from them. I like the relationship of, Griffin and Howe.
Yeah.
They're the homies. Mike Murphy, their facility is incredible. We just went there this weekend, shot a competition. The people are great. You can't believe the facility going through how they make guns. It is the polar opposite of what we do, and it is one of the most inspiring gun companies to me right now because, historically, just, when Mike was on here and you talk about they made guns for Dwight Eisenhower, Gary Cooper, Hemingway for his guns for Africa. Yeah. And just the history, and then what they do, everything is made by hand. Like this weekend, so I bought a rifle that is almost exactly Hemingway's rifle from the early 1900s from his hunts in Africa, which was an 03 Springfield Sporterize, custom stock, scope mount, the iron sights that they put on it. They do everything to it. And I got one, was able to purchase a used one that was traded back into them or sold back to them. It is in their pro shop there in New Jersey where we were at Griffin and Howe. And they buy collections, a lot of collections from like wealthy estates when they die that have a lot of Griffin and Howe custom-made guns. And I was able to get one of the vintage ones, and I dropped off an 03 Springfield that Nick Schaefer, one of our engineers, gave me. Shout out to Nick, to make a brand new one too. So we'll have, and that'll take a year to build because they do everything by hand. Like the piece of wood that I picked is just a big block of wood.
Right.
And they rub it with water, and they pull down until you find one that you like the grain, and it's got a price tag on it, and you pick it, and then, they trace it. Like, you pick the pattern that you want your stock to be, and they trace it on there, and then they just get to chiseling away. Like, it's just so opposite of what we do. But, these are companies I want to support more than I want to take ad money.
Well, it's crazy that they've survived, too, because, like, we just had a conversation about it, but, like, we market on social media, we use the current trends, and we put ourselves out there. And Griffin and Howe, they've been around forever, but you don't see them on Instagram all the time. You don't see them in popular culture, the YouTube videos, all that stuff.
No.
But they've survived, and they've maintained their kind of their motto the whole time. Like, they've stayed the same.
I want to promote it, but and it seems like a paid ad for me, but just because I understand it's a completely handmade, custom-made thing, and it's different than what we do, but that's dying. What they're doing is a dying thing, and there are people around who have enough money to support it, and it's just an interesting part of our industry that I hope enough people are still into to support, because to be a member at their farm and everything, you guys saw how nice it was.
It was insane.
Like, it's expensive. And so the majority of their customers are like old rich dudes. And how do you get, so
Yes,
we
saw those dudes.
How do you get a younger generation? And I think it kind of used to be, they wouldn't have the money to do that. But now there are the guys, like, their guns are $5,000 to $30,000 for one of their guns.
It's a niche thing, but it's also authentic. And even the younger guys, even younger people, respect authenticity. And I think there's a place for it. Sure. With anything.
There is, but I think the story has to be told. Number one, they have a bound book where every gun they've ever built is in it. So your name's in there with Dwight Eisenhower, Ernest Hemingway, Gary Cooper. And then there's also, when you think about, because I was talking to one of our engineers about it when we were there this weekend before we went through the shop where they build the guns, and he's just like, and it's, for a lot of modern things, the fix does stuff better than what they do. Understood. Mm-hmm. But I knew he, number one, is a machinist. He apprenticed as a machinist, and then he's one of our mechanical engineers. And I said, you are going to understand, like, we set up to design our stuff this way, to where we don't have to do any hand fitting. But you need to appreciate this other side of things. And when we took him in there, he was blown away at the stuff they do, the attention to detail. And I said, think about it like this. So we were having this discussion the night before drinking beers. And he's like, I don't know why you care about it. I said, okay, like, if money were not an option, like, I love the new Corvette, but I would never buy a Corvette. Yeah. Just wouldn't. It's just like Savage makes good products. I'm not really going to probably buy them. And maybe that's me being stuck up or whatever it is.
You like what you like.
I like what I like. And you can't be proud to own a Savage when you go to hunting camp. And it's like the new Corvette is probably the best value in, like, a real sports car. Mm. And every time I see one, I think it's like a new McLaren for a second. And then I'm like, oh, it's the Corvette. Yeah. And, I love, like, vintage Corvettes and all, but they just ruined it for so long. Yeah. So, like, you're proud to have a Ferrari, an Aston Martin, a Lamborghini, like any of these things. Like, a Corvette is like, your retired, like, FBI agent asshole neighbor. Yeah. He got one for retirement, gift to himself. And so it's kind of, I think, maybe sort of a similar thing. Like, you can get the performance out of the new Corvette that you can get out of most any other car. Right. But you still got a Chevy. Yeah.
Well, one thing that you said that kind of struck a chord with me was that the story needs to be told. And I've been going through this weird thing where up until recently, I never have really cared about that traditional style gun. Like, my dad's got a Model 70 that he loves, and he uses it all the time. And, like, growing up, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's cool, whatever. But it's, like, not I liked lever guns, whatever. But ever since, I think a lot of it is, like, in the past year or so, the past few trips that you've gone to Africa and come back and then told stories on, and then having all the guys from the last Africa trip on to them telling about it, and Danny talking about it, his dad's gun, and, like, Jason talking about he's a big Model 70 guy, and seeing Mike Murphy's gun, like, the more I'm like, oh man, these are really cool. And, like, I've started and, like, now I'm trying to read all these books and stuff like that too. So it's like I'm more interested in it, and it's because the story is being told. The reason I wasn't interested in it before is just no one was talking about it. It wasn't as cool.
Well, I think like a modern Model 70, who gives a shit? A pre-64 Model 70, that's like Americana.
Right. But yeah, like I've got the gun that I always have hunted with around here is a 32 Winchester Special Model 94.
Yeah, that's old.
My grandfather gave it to me when I shot my first deer, and like to me, I love lever guns. Like I think they're the perfect gun ergonomically. I just think like there's something about them. They come up perfect. Like you can put a little optic on them, or you don't need them. And just I think they're the perfect gun, especially growing up around here. But that's all I never cared about Model 70s, 700s. I never cared about those. But as time goes on, like I also never cared about 30-06. I thought it was just stupid boomer or whatever. But now as time goes on, I'm like, man, it is really cool.
It is boomer. And the one I just bought is 30-06, and that was what we were gonna build, and the one we dropped off, and it probably still will be. But you know it's Americana.
Yeah.
I mean, and then too, it's cool that it was. I mean, as you get older, you know, you feel differently about a lot of things, and you will feel very differently when you're my age than you do now. But it's like that was a World War I gun, the 03 Springfield,
Right.
World War II, the 03, and the Garand. You know, that's like a rich American history. And you know, Griffin and Howe, like Mike said, we just didn't have an awesome American gun company for hunting rifles at the time. Like
Right.
World War I, World War II, you know, Winchester started coming on. But that's, you know, they took those 03s because guys were in World War I. They knew the gun. It was reliable. They were used to it. And they had them because they brought them back from the war. And it was sporterize it for a hunting purpose. And so it made a lot of sense. And I think just understanding that history, just like I got a double rifle and I was looking at another one when I was at Griffin and Howe. And I'm sure I'll probably end up with 5 or 6 double rifles. Like I don't even need one. Like I probably want one. But over the course of my life, like you laugh, but they do long-term storage for guys like wealthy people that live in New York that have like $10 million gun collections. And we got to walk through some of that. Like there are guys with 100 double rifles.
Yeah. They may never even go to Africa.
But, you know, and I was like, oh, you know, and I was like, what the fuck? But then it's like, you know, Mike's like, Kevin, what you got in your collection? I'm like, oh. Well, you know, like at one time I had 1,000 machine guns.
Right.
1,000 machine guns. And I probably shot most of them, like once or twice.
1,000 machine guns.
1,000 machine guns.
No shit.
No shit.
Way.
Yeah.
1,000 machine guns.
Yeah, because I mean, he could buy a pallet of M10s, M11s, or whatever.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, and so I sold a lot of the collection to grow advanced armament in 07. But for instance, I bought MG42s for $3,000, transferable ones. And, you know, at the time I lived in a $89,000 house and I drove a Nissan Stanza and, you know, I made $1 million a year. And MG42s were $3,000 and $4,000.
Yeah.
So
You make about $1 million a year, right, Jeff?
Close to it, yeah.
Yeah, I figure you're close.
Yeah.
So it's stupid. But over time, what I realized is it's burdensome. Like it just the facility to accommodate all of those guns.
Right.
I'm kind of bummed that Jay and I didn't stick around and see this whole thing.
But you guys,
Yeah,
were
when we first got
born,
there,
or-
we walked through the
that.
store and we did a walkthrough and like I saw a vest was like $400 and I was like, I'm probably.
Oh, some of the guns in that store were,
Yeah.
you know, $250,000.
Yeah.
But this is like a different location on the property where they do long-term storage, and then there's a facility where they build all the guns. And it just happens one of the guys came in. We were touring on Sunday, the main guy in the shop, and I think he's kind of like the shop manager, but he does the stocks by hand. And he had like a 4-end. He had several pieces up in his work area. And one was like a 4-end, and it was just the checkering and the design, and then checker between. We're asking him, he's like, yeah, I have 19 hours in that 4-end. 19 hours of by hand, and it is the most beautiful thing you've ever seen.
Right.
They start with this most incredible piece of wood, then it's hand-fitted.
See, I love that. I love like actual artistry.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I respect actual artistry.
And I
It's
think that's
fantastic.
the differentiator that you got to
Sure.
make is like, you can say, well, it's like when somebody builds a PSW, Palmetto State Arms, that's a PSA
Yeah.
gun, and for $500, and then they'll paint it to look like the Honey Badger. Yeah, it's like having a Fiero with a Ferrari body kit, my man. that's cool. Like any gun to me, like I like guns. It's cool, but it's a different fucking thing.
Yeah.
You know, there is no free lunch. And if you want the stuff like we saw at Griffin and Howe, like it's like the only way you get it cheap is you have Chinese and Afghani children do it. Like that's the only way. You have to have slaves to do it. You can't otherwise. I mean, it's the truth. It's like all that stuff, and now Biden's banning like all the Soviet ammo and stuff, and the Soviets are one thing, but it's like all of that sort of communist shit. It's because it's made by slaves.
Yeah, like
that's why it's cheap.
Yeah,
if you want handmade like great quality stuff, you gonna pay for it.
Yeah,
there's no way around it. And so I think if we look at part of it, it's like I love firearms. And the artistry of it is one thing, and kind of the history and somebody handmade it. And whether it's musical instruments or whether it's firearms or whether it's art, like, you know, I've got some original art in the house that's expensive. And I've got some limited prints from original pieces that are also very expensive. But could I, you know, and it probably doesn't make sense to most people, but I have a great appreciation for that. But I could also go online and buy like posters of it that sort of look that, you know, and for $40 and frame it and put it up.
Yeah, and it looks cool, but you know it's just different. You know it's not the same.
Coming back to authenticity.
Yeah, some of it is supporting the artist.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
The thing with Griffin and Howe too is that, like, when you go there, you see all these super old and vintage guns or whatever, but you don't have to go get one of those. Like Mike Murphy's gun is not super old, and it is
badass.
I think about that gun all the time, and it is like if you look at it from afar, it looks like a. If you saw it from afar, you'd be like, "Oh, it's like a 700 with a carbon barrel on it," and then you get up close and you're like, "This thing is insane."
I mean, just that stock. That stock was probably $5,000 or $10,000. I mean, it's a handmade stock, hand checkered, the butt plate and trap door, like that's all handmade.
Yeah.
And I get it. Some people don't appreciate it, and I think Griffin and Howe, just like Q or just like Hours North, it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
But there is. Even if it's a niche, America's big enough, there's enough consumers, and they just need to be educated on it. You know, I mean, it's like, you idiots, your music. Like, everybody that I show your music or videos to, like Rad, he sends me the video of him and his woman on the back porch in Mozambique, like, playing Hours North, watching hippos and elephants go by. No, they were in
Rad loved Hours
Namibia.
North. I haven't heard the song High Water so many times in my life than driving through the fucking plains of Africa.
Yeah, we had to play it like 2 or 3 times a day.
It was crazy. Yeah, lots of times hearing High Water.
Yeah.
Oh man,
But that's your song though.
that is. Yeah,
It's good.
I love that song.
Yeah.
So does Rad. So does Kevin.
Yeah,
Made me feel all right.
I love it. Like, whatever. I mean,
It is
Thomas,
cool.
you can be an asshole. Whatever.
It is cool because, like, growing up, us playing it or whatever, and not even just Hours North, but any music that any of us were playing, like, yeah, you have your close circle of people being like, oh yeah, I like that, it's really cool. But now we're at the point where people that we don't know tell us, and like that's people. We just talked about it. We released that video and that new song recently, and like people that
Was it Coastlines?
Coastlines,
Oh, I
that's
like the
correct.
video.
Yeah, it's
I told
cool.
you I had the one critique. Otherwise,
Yep.
fucking great, man.
I'll put it up at the end of this podcast.
Yeah,
that's
that'd be
cool.
We'll send it off.
But yeah, people that either I haven't spoken to in 10, 12 years, not for any reason or whatever, we just kind of lost ways, hitting me up being like, this is incredible. Like, blah, like it's insane. It's really weird. It's cool.
It is cool, you know, and it's.
There's a place for it. I guess that's kind of what we were getting at with, you know, the Griffin and Howe thing and, you know, bringing it into Hours North. But there's like, and it's not for everybody, but there's a place for it in the industry. Maybe niche.
Yeah.
Niche?
You can say either.
It's both. Yeah.
Okay.
It's whichever
Either
you
one.
prefer.
But there's a place for it. And, you know, I think it's important.
Well, I think what'll be interesting is, you know, like, I mean, I told you guys, I hope you guys get rich and famous and I'm just like the tour manager or whatever.
Our hype man.
Oh, yeah, the hype man would be better
That's
because
right.
that's like less, like,
Yeah. Less
yeah.
responsibility.
less
but
responsibility,
more
mo
fun.
fun.
You're our
Yeah.
Flavor Flav.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. He's got some verses.
911 is a joke, man. So, I hope that for you guys. But it'll be interesting to see if that can happen for you guys. Then all of a sudden it's going to be, oh, what are you guys like? Kings of Leon. You'll get like the young idiots that think they know everything about music,
probably.
being like, oh yeah, and you know, I mean, what can you guys do in music that's not been done to some degree that you can't tie it to.
Literally nothing.
Yeah,
It's the same thing
real
with
hard.
guns, and that's where I'm always like, everybody says, but one part of it is it's like they think they hurt my feelings. Like, I was just born mad. Like, there is just no excuse, and then I was just, and it was just, I just don't give a fuck. But people don't really get it, but they think they get to me, and I'm like, oh, I realize at some point, it's like Facebook getting in trouble for their algorithms. And what they understand is anything that like induces controversy, they get 100 times the engagement on, and that directly correlates to the advertising.
Right.
And so, it's like today we had a call with some TV show. A guy wants us to be on there, and at the end he wants us to like pay for the spot. And it's like, yo, homie, that's cool, but we don't pay for that. We don't need to.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it would be a cool thing to do, but like, we don't need it. And if for me, if we can get 10 times the coverage and the result is, 10% of the people think I'm a huge asshole, don't care.
Yeah.
Don't care. It's
Publicity,
promotion.
yeah.
But it will be interesting to see if you guys can, like do everything your wildest dreams. It'll be interesting to see how you could be the nicest guys in the world, and it's still you're going to get these assholes.
Yeah.
It'll be like,
Yeah.
I'm
guilty
whatever.
of it. I mean, there's dudes that are probably like, I rip on Ed Sheeran all the time. He's probably the nicest guy in the world, but he's a thief and he sucks. So
I mean, that's maybe.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But, like when we say he sucks, it's like your taste.
no,
but
he doesn't suck. He doesn't suck. He's a talented dude, but he's a thief.
See, I don't know either one of those, but I would say there's probably not a lot new in music. So
No,
I don't. And I
No, that's the tricky
admittedly
part.
know shit about music.
Yeah.
But also, I remember one time, this was like 20 years ago, when I was, younger. My buddy picked me up. We'd go into the club, and he had his like MP3 or whatever he had at the time. He was all like high tech, so I was probably still rocking CDs. And his playlist and Britney Spears came on, like "Hit Me Baby One More Time," and I was like,
Jam.
and I was, well, at the time, though, now 20 years has passed, so
Yeah, it's okay.
but at the time, I was like, what the hell? And I actually still quote him today because I remember he's like, yeah, like I fucking bought the 20 million albums. And, his point was, say whatever the fuck you want. She sold like 20 million albums. Yeah. So clearly, I'm not the only one that likes her. So shut up. Like, you're jealous.
That's true. To each his own.
Yeah.
I have no interest in being like famous or anything like that. I just want to create music, I just want to play shows, create music with the team. I got no aspirations to sell 20 million records. I don't know.
It doesn't. I mean, the thing is, if you do something that, for us at Q, if it's useful and it's better than other stuff, or for you guys, if you touch people, they enjoy listening to it. It's just a side effect.
Right.
Like, you're gonna get it. Like, I didn't set out to like make millions of dollars either. Like, I set out not to work in a fucking factory.
Right.
Like, that was my goal.
Yeah.
And that's the idea about like this podcast, right? Is like, I mean, I hope that it gets like huge, like, like other awesome podcasts that we all listen to, but it's like our main goal here is just to educate the people that want to tune in. You know what I mean? We're not in it for like any sort of money or anything like that, any monetary value. We are here to educate our consumers, and, make sure that they're getting the correct information, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, so you don't have to get it from those 15 to 22-year-olds who heard it from someone. You can hear it straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
Oh, like the genius about the HK stocks don't.
Oh, yeah.
Wiggle and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, and you don't have to believe me. Like, I'm not going to get on here and lie about what I've done or what we've done or what I've seen. But if you want another source, okay, here's the president of H&K.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Let him tell you.
Yeah.
Like your other anonymous 22-year-old friend with his private account, named after his dog, he's the expert. Yeah. Like, it's easy to be bold when no one knows who you are and you got nothing to lose.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So those kids should go out and do something rather than just talk. Like, talking shit, totally okay. I love it. But, you got to be able to back it up.
Yeah.
Like, do something with your life.
Yeah.
Well, but with the rest of that being said, I think it's like our Instagram or like the company. It just grows organically. We get the proper engagement. Like, we don't need the most. I want to continue to get the proper. And we're going to do that by continuing to have these podcasts that, provide actual quality information where we're not like asking you to buy stuff or, you
It's
know,
that
buy stuff
authenticity.
from people that give us money.
Authentic. Yeah.
And that's the thing that, like, I think it's cool because it rings true. I think it you probably think about it here and there, maybe not, but our band, like Tommy just said, it's not like we just want to play music that we like and do whatever. And Q's the same way, where it's just we want to put out products that we like and that we believe in and that we think are good, and that if people like it as well, awesome.
Yes.
But that's what it's about, is we just want to do what we want to do and do it the right way.
Yeah, I think so. And you know what? I want to share these experiences because the more that goes on, like, I've taken a lot of my life for granted, but I know, like me or not, most people that are into guns would probably trade with me. Like, I've been very fortunate. You know, part of that is a continuing education for me, whether it's Griffin and Howe or it's going hunting in Africa, which we going to talk about.
We got to get into that.
Like, I'm so, like, Crusader, so I'm building my own lodge over there now, and this is not something that is going to make me any money. I want them to be successful because I've been on a lot of hunts, and like I've talked about before, it's just different there. It's like going with your buddies. And some people require, you know, like some of those people at Griffin and Howe. Are you really vaping on the podcast?
No.
You're so lame. Which
the camera's on you right now.
No. So that's gonna lead me to my first story. Which, if I had my glasses on, it's right here at the top with the star. I can see it. I wrote. Well, I don't.
You know you're gonna be struggling with those notes the whole time.
Oh, they're in my pocket. I got so. But anyway, Crusader. I mean, for me, it's a life-changing experience. The first time I went with the homies. Don't be creeping. So, and I want to share it. I want other people to go because I think what Crusader's doing, just like Griffin and Howe, it needs to be marketed and people need to know. And go do it. Like, don't wait till you're old. You can go on a hunt at Crusader Safaris cheaper than you can go on a good whitetail hunt or a mule deer hunt in America, and including your flight. And it is just a wonderful, wonderful experience that you should support. With that being said, you know, because I'll be there hunting a lion. Yeah, in Mozambique.
Yeah, you're going to get a lion.
The lion.
Yo, that's a real thing right there.
Yeah.
Brad was telling us about hunting lions.
Death in the long grass.
What's the range? 30 to 50 yards?
I don't know. For a long. I don't know.
And you're like in like a blind, like on the ground.
Yeah.
Or
So
something?
in Mozambique, there's different ways to hunt lions. Like, you can track them and hunt them, but you can do that in parts of Africa, but not in other parts because of the terrain. You know, like in sandy areas, it's very easy it's easier to track them. Then in other areas, like we'll be in Mozambique, it's very difficult because you have different soil and you have a lot of grass and stuff, so it's harder to track them, so you bait them. But I'll probably be inside 50 yards.
Yeah.
And that's scary. Like the buffalo, we haven't even talked about the buffalo.
We'll
talk about the
get into
buffalo
that.
story. But I didn't know how scary the buffalo hunt was or could be. But, like, you don't have to tell me hunting a 500-pound cat is scary. Like, the little part of my brain knows that's terrifying.
Well, Rad was telling us that, you know, because Rad's like a tough dude, you know, and he's seen like a lot of shit, and he's not really scared of animals or anything. He's not scared of lions either. But he says that when, you know, you're waiting, because like you bait the lions sometimes. And when you do that type of hunt where you bait the lions and you hear them coming in, they start to roar, and the roar gets closer and closer. And he says, you think you're tough until you hear that roar like 70 yards away. Yeah. Because I guess it's loud as shit, and it'll make a grown man pucker up his butthole a little bit.
Well, I know in my hunting at night, predator hunting in West Texas, so if a lion weighs 500 pounds, you know, like a mountain lion in America will be 70 to 200 pounds max. And we had a mountain lion about 50 to 100 yards from us roar. I don't even know if it's called a roar with them. I don't actually know, but it screamed at us. It was the most horrifying thing I've ever heard. I was terrified.
Yeah. I can't even imagine hearing like an elk bugle close to me in the middle of the woods.
Oh, that's cool.
Then just because like it seems like it would be so earth-shattering. But then to know like, oh, this obligate carnivore, this pure killer is also doing that near me, I'd be yeah.
Yeah. You know, and we'll get into the buffalo hunt that Thomas and I did in a minute with 8.6, but that to me, it's like a buffalo. Like when you look at it, it looks like, you know, kind of like big cattle or a big bull,
big
which
slow.
you know, I don't slow. I mean,
Well, they look slow.
But you know, I had cattle at my farm in Georgia, and I had some bulls, and the bull was not to be trifled with. But he wasn't after me. It was just like you know, we had to go. We had one main bull, and when you needed to go, you know, worm him or put some stuff on him for flies or whenever you had to put your hands on him, he wasn't having it, and you just had to be very careful, or you could get hurt. But you know, with cats, like they're so fast, they're so strong, they're so vicious, they'll eat you. To me, it's just a different thing. So the lion hunt. So I'll go on both kinds of hunts. This one is in Mozambique. We're gonna bait, and we have to build our own blind. So we'll be probably within 50 yards of him.
Are you nervous? Don't lie to me. Don't lie to my face.
Maybe not right. Probably not right now.
I don't. No.
That's one of the,
I don't know.
Big five,
it's
right?
adrenaline. Yeah. So it's adrenaline, and it's going to be exciting. I think I will be much more nervous on a stalk of a lion than this type of hunt, but I'm sure it's going to be horrifying when it happens. But I don't think I get really scared so far, but I've not hunted a ton of things that would really like eat me.
Well, your philosophy is that you have a gun.
I have a gun.
Yeah.
And so,
do you know what round you're going to be using?
yeah, we're going to shoot him with 8.6.
8.6.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Is that overkill or because
No.
they're soft? You don't really.
Yeah,
need.
it's a soft hide, so you can shoot them with 0.6 or 270 or 301 mag. So it's not like trying to kill a buffalo or a hippo or something. But I'm going to use 8.6 because I'm taking two guns. My double rifle. Now I want to shoot one. I want to be the first person to shoot one with 8.6, and I also want to see how he'll react. Like I've shot one buffalo now with 8.6, and I'm going to shoot a buffalo on this, another free range buffalo in Mozambique. But I'm going to use my double rifle
What
for
is your
that.
double rifle?
My double rifle. So it's a WJ Jeffrey, so it's a London double, and it's about 100 years old, and it's a 450-400, so it's kind of the predecessor to 375. So it's not a huge, but it's a big bullet. It's a I think I'm probably going to shoot a 400 or 405 grain, going probably about 2,300 feet a second. And I want to try that, you know, because one thing that's interesting about the double originally was cool because you have two shots fast, and there weren't semi-autos really available then, and especially with these big cartridges. But, you know, you got two shots, but then you got to reload, and that's where stuff can go wrong. Or if something goes really wrong, you know, your PH hopefully has a gun. But in this lion hunt, we'll set up, we'll be in a blind. I'll have my gun. Rad will have his. I just kind of view at that point, if we both fail with our gun and we get a lion in the blind killed, like
You have no reason to be out there in the first place.
it was just
something
kind of
went way
meant to.
wrong,
It's
yeah.
kind of meant to be.
Yeah.
I think like stalking one, and you know when you stalk them, like they see you before you shoot them most of the time.
And you are stupid, ignorant to think that they don't.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that they can cover ground so quickly, like so much can go wrong doing that. Well, so this, I'll probably shoot him. He'll never see me. Like hopefully that's the way. But if it goes wrong, it can go wrong. Like and you can die doing this hunt. Like hopefully it's not likely, but it could happen. You know, because our blind is just going to be made of like twigs and stuff.
Are you on the ground? Or
Yeah. So we're on the ground. So we'll see, but I'm very excited. And I kind of rushed the lion hunt because of all the politics and stuff. And then after that Cecil, the lion thing was on the news a couple years ago, and people freaking out about shooting lions. They're just like ignorant to this whole process. And I'm afraid, and this is it's a very expensive hunt because it's land that adjoins Kruger too. So like where Cecil was killed, and what people don't understand is Kruger doesn't have a fence all the way around it. They have sections of fence, and they don't manage the population very well. For instance, if you kill a 10-year-old lion, that is incredible in the wild. Like they typically live to like 8 to 10 maybe in the wild. And so you want to kill a 6-year-old lion or older. Well, Cecil was 14 years old. Like he would have died of old age within a year.
Yeah.
And he just got pushed out of Kruger by younger lions because they're not killing enough of them to manage populations. And so they go out onto adjacent properties that are all hunting properties. And like the guy who shot Cecil, like he didn't know, like, and Cecil was only named by like one tour guide in Kruger. It's not like he was actually a famous lion.
Yeah.
But you know, then they shot him, like he's this huge lion. They're like, holy shit, shoots the lion. He's got like, you know, no teeth hardly. They age him at 14, which is incredibly old. That's like a human living to like 110 years old. And he would have died anyway. He wasn't in Kruger. They weren't hunting that lion. He just got pushed out. It's just Mother Nature. Mm-hmm. You know, he no longer was the baddest lion in town, and he got pushed out by younger ones, and he decided it was easier for him to go to other property. Mm-hmm. And so but that area has the biggest lions in the world.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty exciting. They're bigger than the other lions in Africa. And then kudu as well. So the property where I'll be, it's right there where the largest kudu ever was found. It was found dead. So it just like was eaten by something or died of old age or whatever. But you know, like a monster awesome trophy kudu is 55 inches. And this was 73 inches. So, you know, when you start talking about something being, 30% bigger than like an incredible trophy, like it's unbelievable. So I have an opportunity to, you know, I'll likely kill the biggest kudu that I'll ever see or have an opportunity to shoot. So that's pretty exciting. So I'm going to shoot buffalo, lion, kudu. I'm going to take 8.6 in my double rifle. You know, the double rifles, I got into it like learning about Africa and history and why they existed, and they're incredibly expensive, but a double rifle is so hard to make. You know, you have to make the barrels align and do all this crazy stuff, and they're all handmade, and it takes somebody like a year to make one. And so that's what I'm doing. But the fix, we're going to get after that lion with that.
Yeah, that's going to be no problem.
Yeah, after seeing the buffalo.
After seeing all of those things, man.
I only saw the kudu, and it was insane.
Oh, you seen the video of the kudu?
Yeah.
So will it
Thomas,
be posted by
roll
now?
the clip. It smoked that kudu.
Yeah.
We were 134 yards away.
And that's a 500-pound animal. So
Yeah.
that's like, or maybe even bigger, actually. But that's a large animal.
Yeah. And it just said, sit down, little boy.
Yeah, it just fell on its back. And it was
a back flip, basically. Yeah. It's like it was doing a back dive or whatever off a dive.
It got pushed over. It didn't just like drop. It got pushed over.
And I didn't see it because I went to Africa to film the whole thing with Kevin. That's what I did. And I wasn't filming the actual kudu at the time. I was filming Kevin taking the shot. So I didn't see it at first until I reviewed the footage that Rad got later on. And the impact of it, you know, right here in like the shoulder chest area. And right on his back, his horns got locked up in the tree behind it. Man.
Yeah, so it did if you just rolled the clip.
I rolled the clip already, yeah.
Yeah, back
roll
flip.
it again.
Yeah. Yeah, back flips, and it was pretty great because we get down there and its horns went between two little trees and were stuck between them. Anyway, but it's a devastating round, and we proved it on that trip.
Yeah.
So because it's interesting right now, like as we film this, Ethan is on his way to a government test where they're actually testing 8.6 and at distance and everything, and the guy who runs it, who we've spoken about before, he's been a big proponent of fast twist for a very long time, and is probably recognized at. He's the person who's really pushed like modern projectiles to perform better, and you know, someone who is, when people say ballistics expert, you know. He probably knows more than everyone else has ever forgotten when it comes to bullet performance and stuff like that. And so he did a lot of research into fast twist for short barrel 223s for the government several years ago. And if you want those little bullets to expand, when you cut the barrel way down, you got to spin them fast. And he's known that because part of it is you want the bullet to expand. If you shoot something here, you want it to expand starting here. You don't want it to start expanding here.
Right.
You know, you want to make a bigger hole all the way through the animal.
Well, speaking of bullet expansion, we have a bunch of pictures of the 8.6 that we dug out of all those animals.
Well,
When you say we dug
Desmond.
them out, I was gonna say, who dug them out?
Yeah.
By we, I mean not Kevin or me.
But right now, you can put the picture in of Desmond in the Cape Buffalo.
This little man, which
Yeah.
is he's about my size, a little smaller.
Yeah, right.
He worked so hard.
He's awesome.
He busted his ass, and he cut open all those animals. And one time went for the buffalo. He was halfway into the buffalo.
At least halfway.
He could have got all the way inside the buffalo.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
Yeah. So he retrieves. He got some of our bullets out in the field. So we're actually taking 2 metal detectors this time. I've purchased
Good call.
to make them easier to find in the animals when we're gutting them in the field. But it's interesting if you show the pictures of the bullets now. Not only did they perform and expand, but you see the twist. You can see the twist on the mushroomed projectile.
Right.
That's awesome because what that's doing is the bullet's opening sooner in the animal, and it's having more cutting surface. It's creating more trauma and a larger hole through the animal. And I mean, you hadn't been on hunts before, but you got a master's degree on that hunt.
Yeah, that's important to point out. Is like, again, I'm not a gun person, not a hunter at all, and this was the first hunt I've ever been on. I was a part of 8 or 9, like, what do you call it? Spot and stock hunts.
Yeah, or hunts.
Yeah. And I definitely learned a lot. I probably know more about hunting than a lot of hunters in America because of this fucking trip, man. Ooh.
Well, let's start. All right. So I want to point something out. So you were vaping a minute ago. And so, Jay, you probably know the story. So I had told Thomas a while back he could go to Africa. He really wanted to go back to South Africa. He's been before, but not on hunts. But I would take him, and he could video my hunts. And, because I got love for the streets and all my kids at Q, I'm like, Thomas, you need to stop smoking. It's fucking stupid. And if you will stop smoking, and now you're going to say, like, vaping.
You're already lying to the people.
I will
love for the streets. You're already lying to folks.
He still got love for the streets.
Still. And I said, you need to check yourself. So that if you stop smoking, I would take you to Africa. And you agree. Absolutely. 100%. I got you. No problem. I was bang, 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 bang. You were going to do it. And so we're getting closer and closer. I still see you walking outside vaping all the time. I'm like, man, you made me a promise. I made you. I'm going to quit before Africa. I'm going to quit before Africa. I got you. I heard you. Promise. You show up at the house. Ivanka's taking us to the airport. He gets all dramatic. He walks in the kitchen. He's like, hey, guys, with his Denzel Washington granddaddy's voice.
Hey, guys.
I told you I was going to quit. Pulls his little vape thing out, opens the trash can. It's the last one I had. Right there. There you go.
Damn.
And it was awesome.
Commitment.
And it was dramatic. First of all, I'd like to preface that this whole Africa, me quitting vaping thing, not the case. He told me that I can have a honey badger if I quit smoking. I smoked for like 6 years, switched to the vape. It's much better. Doesn't smell as bad. But I love smoking.
So
whatever.
you're saying Africa was no part of this?
So Africa was no part of this. However, I thought that it would be a good call so that I know that we're going into a very rural, remote place of
Thomas,
Africa.
edit yourself out right now because you were fucking lying.
No, so if I quit my smoking here and I go, okay, I don't have a vape anymore. I go to Africa for 2 weeks and I go and I get it out of my system. I go through my withdrawals or whatever the fuck. I can't smoke. I have no choice. That was my plan, right? I have no option, right? So I can't smoke in
Makes
Africa
sense.
because
Can we get back to my
Unless you
story?
shoot darts.
No, my story. My story. So he does this. He was going to quit. He does that.
Yep.
The second day, he starts smoking again.
Okay.
And he's still smoking now. We're back from Africa. There's no
How'd
lions,
you-
tigers,
second
bears
day,
chasing
Yeah,
him.
but how did you...
Now listen. So I wasn't told that Rad, our awesome PH, our our fantastic guide through the wilderness.
That motherfucker needs to stop smoking too.
I didn't know that he smoked cigarettes. And me being a nicotine addict,
Right.
Jay,
Right.
I said, hey, Rad, I'm fiending after my 27-hour journey across the ocean. I'm fiending. Can I have a cigarette? And he said, yeah, man. And then he just never stopped giving me
Oh,
cigarettes.
so you're just chiefing darts over there.
Yeah, I started smoking because, like, again,
Cool.
if you've ever been
That's way
addicted to nicotine,
I haven't.
you can't just like.
I feel like you need a cigarette now. Jesus, calm down, you liar.
I know that he likes cigarettes, so I wish he would just smoke cigarettes. I'm all about.
I don't want to smoke anymore, but I don't have a choice in the
He
matter.
doesn't want to.
You
Okay,
do.
don't.
I don't.
You do.
Anyway.
So anyway, Thomas is cannot be trusted when it comes to cigarettes and nicotine.
We've all got our vices.
We've all got our vices.
What are yours, Jay?
Caffeine, big time.
What else?
And women.
Yes.
Really?
Caffeine and women.
You'd be
What?
surprised, sir.
And sleep.
Yeah, I
I
could
like
guessed
sleep.
that.
He loves
I
sleep.
love sleep.
Nah.
Fuck me. Love it.
Yeah. You should see him when he gets caffeine, sleep, and women all on the same night. God damn.
You wouldn't recognize me the next day.
That's awesome. But no nicotine.
No nicotine.
Jay is as straight edge as it gets, other than like, you know,
Caffeine for sure.
caffeine
Oh,
and
God,
cheese.
I forgot Mexican lagers.
I like cheese.
The boy
yeah, but
loves
I don't even do
cheese.
that anymore. I just like don't do the. I just can't drink anymore.
Why not?
He'll have a beer with the boys every now and again.
It's like once a year.
Yeah.
It hurts my noggin.
But that's the thing with Jay
Oh.
is like he's like a chameleon, right? With
He'll
our
drink
our
water.
team, he'll like not drink and he'll be like, but if he like goes and hangs out with like some like crew with tattoos on their faces, he's having beers. And we're
Not
like,
anymore.
what the fuck is this? Like you won't have beers with us, but you'll go have beers with the criminals down the block.
This is not
okay.
true. Not anymore. This is the olden days.
All right. Well,
Where do we
Okay.
start? That's the thing about this.
well
About the
so,
Africa
so we
trip.
started there. So we fly over. It takes a very long time.
It's actually life changing. Like there's something
Yeah.
so like potent about like just the area that you're in. It's unbelievable. Every place you stand, every single place you stand, you turn around and
I mean-
it is the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. Anywhere you stand on the entire property, it is incredible.
Yeah. How many times did we say it when we were driving around for
Every day,
8
every-
hours? Like every time you top a mountain or you go around a hill to another valley, you know, go around a bend and you see another one, it's like more beautiful than the last.
Yeah.
We say it all the time.
And when you're stalking an animal, right, you find yourself in places that, you know, not everybody just goes to. You just find yourself in like random places. And every time we would like stop and like get out the car and like, you know, glass the side of the hill, you have to like take a second and realize that like it's just so beautiful. Like everywhere. Like you can always like no matter where you're standing, you look in a certain direction and it is just majestic. I couldn't get over it. I couldn't get over that single fact. It's like, and I said to Kevin like a bunch of times, like, do you see this? Are you seeing this too? And like he's a little bit more desensitized than I am, but like,
Right.
and I've been to Africa before, but I've never seen Africa like this.
Right.
This is a different thing, and it is like something you see like on television, on the internet. It's incredible.
Well, you know, some of it could be whether you're, you know, part of it I'm sure is the ego, but then I think part of it, if you think about like what you love with music, you know,
I fucking hate music.
but every time like you go on stage to perform, it's like if you were doing it in front of your family every time or in front of no one, you guys are rehearsing, that's one thing. That when you see people and you see their response and they love it. And it's probably not too different from like our products. The first time someone shoots the honey badger or a gun with a silencer for the first time, you see that response. It reminds you of why you love it. And I think going to Africa and seeing that, you know, like I'm dedicated building this lodge for the next 10 years, spending a lot of time there, and I'm excited about it. And I might move on from there. And whether you think about Hemingway and Roosevelt and all these other people that will say the same things, that had the greatest lives ever, experienced all kinds of things, and all of them were moved by Africa. It changed their lives. And, you know, like I sent you the video, you can roll it now. It's like we're in the owner's yard hanging out with him at the end of the day, or maybe at the beginning. I don't remember. I think at the end. Beginning. And his kids, he's got 3 little kids that are like, whatever, 7 to 12 years old. And it's snowing, and it's like only the second time it had ever snowed there in the valley or something.
Oh, that.
And we're hanging out, and the kids can't believe the snow, and you see that, and a herd of Cape buffalo came through their yard, and there were giraffe earlier in the front yard, and I asked them, the kids were so excited about snow, so then, their dad had to take them up on top of the mountain where there's enough snow to build a snowman or to at least have a snowball fight. Yeah. Because, the youngest one, maybe he had seen snow once or maybe never.
No, the youngest one never saw snow. The oldest one has.
Yeah, okay. So they're doing that, and we're just hanging out, and the kids are so excited. And they were so excited about snow, and then Thomas and I are like, you guys know you got like Cape Buffalo 20 yards away. They didn't even care.
Hey, kids, see that over there?
Yeah, maybe get up on the porch, honey. I was asking them one day, because, we'd run into the kids about every other day and hang out with them for a minute. And, they're just running around doing stuff. And I asked them one day, because they go to school. The school, of course, is like 45 minutes, an hour away in the closest town. And so I was talking to them just about random stuff. It's so hard for them to get things there. Like, even though this is like a reasonably wealthy family, like, there's no Amazon, there's no stores around. So, I remember the owner's wife asked me to bring him back underwear that was comfortable, because it was so hard for her to find it anywhere. Like, just stuff like that, and you're like, what?
And he was kind of weird about it too. Like, he's like a manly man, right? He's like
played pro cricket.
He's like a rugged dude, and he was like kind of weirded out about another man bringing him underwear.
But then he was like, she said something about it. He's like, you talking about how those squeezed his balls too hard that she got him like whatever. I was like, yeah. I was like, Tactical Distributors. He and I were so stoked on the battle briefs. I'm like, man, I got you. Yeah. I'm gonna hook you up, bringing you some battle briefs.
The battle briefs.
So, but I asked the kids, their children one day, we're hanging out there, and the some giraffe came through the yard, and I was like, any of the kids you guys go to school with have giraffe in their front yard? And they just left. They're like, no. I was like, man, what a life. When you guys are older, looking back at your life now, like, it's strange in the sense that they're so remote, but then they have all these incredible things that you just can't even think of.
Yeah, like, the youngest boy, there's two girls and the youngest boy, and one night we were at the lodge, and all of a sudden him and his dad come back, and his dad's carrying a baboon that this
No, it was just a monkey.
Was it a monkey?
Yeah.
It was a blue ball monkey.
Yeah, one of the iridescent.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Monkey.
So it was a blue ball monkey, and he's just holding it, and he's like, "Look what I got!"
He walks into the lodge holding the monkey.
Yeah, he's like 5 years old, and he just smoked this monkey with a 22, and it's just like the lifestyle that these children have, and like I can't understand it. You know what I mean? Because but they seem so happy, and they seem so like that's just the way it is for them, and they I don't know, they just love it, and I don't know, it was just incredible to see like that type of lifestyle that these kids are like growing up into, and like they live off the land, and they eat the animals, and
they have a garden and
right, exactly. And when Kevin shot the buffalo, the kids came down, like Andrew Pringle, the owner of the place. He came down. He brought his kids to show him the buffalo, and they were like psyched on it. They're
the first pictures that were taken with it, they were with the buffalo.
And it's just weird because like you show the kids we know, like Jack's kids or something like that. We would like, hey, come look at this dead buffalo that they're cutting open. They would freak out.
Yeah. Well, we don't. I think we go over there expecting like, okay, if we want to kill a buffalo, we're going to hunt buffalo. But it doesn't happen that often. And so for them it was interesting because remember when they brought a bunch of trackers and a lot of the staff. So like what would you say, like indigenous, like the people, the staff that works the farm,
the locals,
the locals. So they brought like 6 of them there to help for us to carry, drag the buffalo out to get the truck after, and for them to gut it and everything, and get it to the truck to get it back to process it. And they were hyped, number one, because they'll get a lot of the meat. Yeah. And so that's cool for the staff there because they have a lot of staff. Like when we were there, it was actually not a time of year they have a large staff, but they have dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of staff that live there. And if we kill a buffalo, like they probably get half of it. Right. So they get to eat steak. And but they were all taking selfies and stuff with the buffalo. It was even a big deal to them. Like it didn't happen too much. But just see, what I realize, and I think why I'm in love with it now is like every time I simplify my life, I find a way to make it more complicated. Like having a company is a lot of stress. A growing company is a lot of stress. Still having kids in high school, like whatever the thing is, and I know when I moved from Atlanta to New Hampshire, I could breathe a little deeper because there's no traffic. There's not much crime here. There's a lot of things that I'd, been used to growing up there that there's not here. And it's a more relaxing life. So I think that allowed me to focus more on like Q and us doing a company. But I made my life very complicated again in a lot of senses, but in a good way. But one thing I love about Africa, we go over there, like I think what you're saying, it's very simple in a lot of like rudimentary ways. And when we're there, we have cell service at the lodge. When we leave every morning, we don't have it again, or we have Wi-Fi at the lodge. We have cell service. Yeah. I mean, not to upload videos, but you can like chat on WhatsApp with your homie or whatever. And on top of the mountain, we have cell service. And that's it. And the rest of the day, you're cruising around and you don't see other people and you're just hunting. And then at night is just catching up with your homies that you're hunting with that are going out with other PHs. And it's just like a very simple part of life that I think it's probably why it's life-changing for a lot of people. And it probably was even this way to whatever degree in the early 1900s when Hemingway and Gary Cooper and Roosevelt and people were going over there. It was such a simple way of life, even compared to U.S. standards then, that it just takes you back to that, and you appreciate these. I mean, then the other part is stuff that you've read about or seen in movies growing up, all these wild animals and stuff.
Well, that's a point. What you just said is a point that I think has been a point that's been covered since the 1800s. Is that I don't know who initially said it, but there was a Native American chief or whatever back in the late 1800s or early 1900s that said there were a lot of whites that were taken by Native Americans that would be kind of brought back into the white society. They would be like rescued, and you would see them try to get back to the Native American life. You would never see it the other way. You would never see Native Americans that were trying to get back to the white way of life. And it's that simplicity that even down to that tribalism of like,
I think it's a quality of life that you take for granted.
But that on the tribalism side of it, like that group of guys, whoever it is, whether it was the last group with Danny and Ray and all them, like you just said, you get up in the morning, you kind of leave the civilization, the Wi-Fi type deal, and you kind of part ways and you go on your own adventures. And at the end of the day, you reconnect on that adventures. And you guys at that time are the only people doing those things. And there are similarities in the two separate adventures, and you can bond over those two things. And I think that it's something that's lost in, I think, everyday society, even in areas like New Hampshire. Like we're a little more rural than the middle of Atlanta or LA or whatever, but it's still we've lost that sense of, I guess, adventure in that.
Well, that's the thing though, is like we say like simple and like you go out and it's like whatever, but the unbridled adventure, the shit that happens when you go out into the jungle or the plains or whatever, the stuff that happens that you cannot script, like things that are more exciting than any movie you've ever seen that happen to you when you have no idea that they're about to happen. It's like we have so many stories about things that just like you couldn't write.
And
it's
you can't see it anywhere else.
It's almost like this needs to be a part of Q, because I want it to be a part of my life, and it should be like, I don't know, unscripted adventure, or it should be something adventure. Like I understand now, I think it's what I talk to, I hope, a lot about, whether it's some of our investors who, are billionaires, and, I'm friends with them and close to them and work with them a lot, and understanding their life. And it's like, it's very interesting. And by U.S. standards, like I think like maybe a common consensus. Oh, if you're successful, you do these things. And I'm just like, I don't know. I never thought I'd have any money. But now that I do have a few bucks, it's like, for me, it's just, I want it to buy me freedom and adventure. Like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want a bigger house. I don't want a fancier car. I don't want any of that. Like, I want to go on adventures. Because, reading these things, like, what do we know about Hemingway or Roosevelt or... it's all, I mean, it's all the adventures. That's the things that we know about. And, for me, that's what I want, like, money to provide me is just adventure. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's so much more fulfilling, and it's so much more interesting than, you know, if we sell, you know, the thing is with business, and probably most things, you're either growing or you're dying. And so, like, the business needs to continue. I think we make an impact. We make a difference. The innovation, all those things are good. But for me personally, like, the adventure that we get to go on over there. And it's so different than anything you can do here in America.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going to say to kind of piggyback with what you just said, like, maybe that's one of my vices, this like adventure thing. Like when people want to go on a vacation and go sit by the beach for 2 weeks or whatever, like I went out and slept in a tent in the dirt for 2 weeks on a motorcycle trip or whatever, and I want that. And I hear these stories that you tell when you come back, and I hear the other guys tell the stories, and it's like I get so excited about that. And then when I got told that I was going to go help Tommy in Africa, be the second camera and help, to me, I took it as like, one, it's an adventure. Like I'm going to get to experience all these things that no one else is going to get to experience. But it's also, we have the ability to capture those experiences that we're talking about. And so when people are trying to tell their friends, all the other guys are trying to be like, oh, we did this thing or whatever, we can help them, show them that. We
are literally going to be the storytellers. We're going to make it so that people can join in on the adventures.
Documenting it. Yeah. I think it is important because I've told you guys, it's like I have no videos of me as a child or anything.
Right.
Like nothing. I have a maybe 10 pictures of me as a kid. But, you know, and I had a relatively interesting childhood and stuff. I got to travel the country racing BMX for a team. And, you know, when I was in elementary and middle school, like I would be away from school for periods. Like that was kind of cool stuff. And there was like no one to document it. But yeah, then as an adult, like all the things we talked about before with like the YouTube guys with like Demolition Ranch, like I did that when we didn't record it. There was no social media. And I just did it for fun because it was awesome.
Yeah.
And like, oh man, I should have been videoing all this crap. And I just didn't care. Yeah. I catch myself now. We're at Griffin and Howe, like, because I really try to, when we go somewhere, to hyper focus on it and be in that moment and to experience and have fun. And I mean, there's so many things in Africa. You got so much footage, and we're going to start releasing that. But there's so many things. Like some days you wouldn't go when you're working, and so many things that I should document. And I just want to see it myself, and then later on I'm like, man, I'm gonna forget it, and I can never show it to anyone else.
I'm the same way though. It's like going to a concert or something, or doing anything, going on vacation. Like I do the video and stuff for Q because that's my job. But like when I'm just doing something on my own, like I almost never document anything because like that's my moment, and I want to fully live in that moment. Like people like watch concerts through their phone.
Yeah, dude.
You know what I mean? And it bums me out. It's like, how about you have that moment to yourself? Like that's your moment. Enjoy it. Fully experience what you're there to experience.
I will say one thing, like Ivanka being foreign and, you know, not anyway, I like for her to go places with me in general, but one thing she does that I used to think is a little bit annoying, but now I'm very grateful for, is like her filming and taking pictures like a tourist.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed ridiculous to me at the time, but then, you know, like a week or two later, she'll airdrop me 50 pictures that she took at moments that I'll forget about, or she captures this like moment that I want to remember, but I can't take the picture myself, but it'll be of me doing a thing or whatever it is. And then I'm so grateful for it.
That's a good point, because like because we knew we were doing this podcast last night, and you sent me like 1,000 pictures from the Africa trip. And when I was looking through them all, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That. Oh yeah. Like, and then just like, so I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's cool to do, but I mean, there needs to be a mix. But I think, you know, to get back to our trip to Africa and start going through some of the stuff that we experienced, it's just life changing. And I feel that way every time. And I love it. And I'm able to, you know, take a deep breath. And when I'm here, you know, even though I'm not the CEO, I don't run operations anymore, but still like owning the company and being heavily involved, it's like I have to be involved in so much of the company. And it can get overwhelming, you know, no matter how organized you are. It just, because there's always 20 decisions that need to be made, and you're constantly collecting data for each of those and so to go and maybe some people, they go to the beach for a week and they let their kids play in the surf and they read a book and that's their way to do it. But for me, like going to Africa and being isolated and doing something that still gets me energetic to where I'm not sitting around worrying about other things. It's an adventure, and it requires, like, if I hunt a buffalo or a lion, like, it requires my focus. And what I find is a lot of times when we have, you guys and the company doesn't need me for simple problems anymore. And the things that I end up involved in are all very complicated things because, it's just I have experience, and that's my job as a chairman of the board and to work with the board of directors. The decisions to where it's very difficult, and generally that's because you have 3 or 4 choices that probably make sense, and you have to make one and stick with it. And those are the complicated ones, and those are the things that I think tend to wear on me. And Africa is a place where I go and I can think about those things, in the morning when I get up and I'm showering, doing whatever. But, once we're hunting, like, that's all it's about. Like, you can't fake that. Like, you have to be fully dedicated and focused. And it's just this singular thing, and it's also a great adventure. I mean, you think about how many hunts would you say right now? You said you went on 8 or 9, went the way we anticipated.
1.
So, okay. So, what do we have? 12%. We'll call it. And the rest of it is you just got to be prepared, and you got to be able to make decisions, and you have to be able to adapt. And, and it was the same for you with camera and same for me with a gun. And sometimes I fell, sometimes like you didn't catch the shot. And it's just like, and that would bum you at first, but you had never been on a hunt. And when I would tell you, it's like, hey, do the best you can. We're not going to be able to set up every time to get it. And part of that should be even shown in these videos. Like, we're not trying to do a fucking hunting show.
But that's the thing is like me doing what I was doing and you doing what you were doing. You know what I mean? You're taking the shots and I'm also taking shots. But like, and you're hunting and you're stalking all day and you want the shot so bad, that you want to take the shot so bad. And, you get to that point when it's go time and, you've been stalking all day and it's finally here and you don't get it and it sucks. And it's like the same thing goes for like me on camera, but also for you. You know what I mean? When you just go just a touch high and we lose the animal, whatever. It's like, it's easy to say, like, yeah, whatever. Like things don't go your way. But in that moment when you're like jacked, when you're jacked up and you're like you've been working, you really like. I can't wait for you to go because you're working. Yeah. You know what I mean? You are. Yeah. I haven't seen him get out of breath so many times in my life. This dude, yeah.
Hopefully it'll be less next.
But anyway, it's like, you work yourself up and you want to have the best experience and you want to share that best experience. Sometimes it doesn't go your way and it can feel like the end of the world.
No, it sucks. It's a bad feeling, especially for me. I mean, every time that I fuck up a shot or a stalk, like, it bums me out because I've done it enough where I know it comes down to, just by nature, I'm willing to take more chances than probably average or I should. And that bleeds over into my hunting. And then it's like a lot of other things in my life. I'm never as prepared as I want to be. And both those things cost me. And that bothers me a lot. Not, if I fail at something and it's, something we've never done, and I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I take an educated guess and, risk assessment, and we try it. It's whatever. Learn from it and move on. But there's never a hunting scenario where I don't know. But it ends up being that I should have prepared a little more, and that bothers me. I beat myself up about it, or I knew I shouldn't have pushed it, and I did. And, it bites me in the ass. And so that was my own thing, but, I had to tell him, like, after a couple hunts where he doesn't get, like, the footage he wants, it's like, the thing is, I'm coming here for marketing, and I'm also coming here for me.
Right.
And some of the things aren't going to work out for you. But don't get down about it. Like, this is the way it goes. You capture what you can, and then we'll use what we can, and you'll be prepared, better for next time because you'll know what to expect.
So that's a good segue into the A buffalo.
You want to start with that? Should we start with the roan? So the first day we go out on a hunt, a roan is a very large antelope.
Stupid idiot antelope.
Yeah. So it's like a big sable, and they're relatively rare. But those and sable, they're just dumb. They're like,
They even look dumb.
yeah, and they're not difficult to hunt. Well, the fact there's just not a lot of them. But they, like they call the kudu gray ghost because a kudu sees you. It's like a white-tailed deer. Like it does not hang out to see what you want to do. And there are animals that are dumb that do that. Yeah. They want to, in a sable and a roan or kind of those. Once you find them, you can kill them.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the point. But I wanted to shoot a roan because it's a very large animal, and for the 8.6 for a warm-up. And so we did that, and that was Tommy's first hunt. Yeah. Shoot a roan. I don't know. It wasn't very far.
No.
We caught it coming in broadside. I shot it. It ran a little bit. I shot it on the run. It dies.
Wait, so back up. Because we were after a different roan.
Oh,
we were stalking a different roan, and we found it, and I don't know what had happened. But we saw another
I think
one.
we spooked it, and it went into the tree line.
Yeah. But then all of a sudden, this other one comes out, like,
it comes along this hill. Like, they were together or something, and we didn't
yeah.
realize at first.
Yeah, we stalked that for, like, we were on foot for maybe a half hour before we came up on it. And, they put the sticks up. And this was my first hunt, so I'm, like, fucking jacked up. Like, I have no idea what to expect or anything like that. And a roan is a big animal.
It's large.
It's a big thing, right?
So
and
we'll put a picture up now.
Yeah. And I had no idea what to expect, and we're walking down this trail, and rad's being rad, and I have no idea. Like, I'm trying my best to maintain proper hunting etiquette so that I'm not pissing off the PH.
Right.
I'm not ruining it for the hunter. Just trying to be a ghost behind him, and I'm like fucking, and that was one of the hunts that I didn't quite get the shot I wanted.
Had you seen anything die like that before hunting?
No, it was kind of strange too, because and I have it all on foot. I have all the footage of after the shots.
Did you get the video of me going after it on foot?
Yeah. So he shoots it, I think, twice.
Yeah, I shot it. It was walking along the hillside, and I shot it, and it ran down, and I shot it on the run.
Yeah.
And then it went like another 20 yards through the trees, but I took off running through the trees after it.
And those are some good shots because it was a moving target.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Vincent says you don't shoot a moving target.
Well, he says Ray doesn't shoot a moving target.
Rambo over here, no problem. And so it was.
it costs you sometimes, but
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a shot you got, it's a shot you got.
Yeah. And it was kind of surreal to me walking up because, again, I am not a hunter, and I've never hunted or anything like that before, and I'm not queasy or anything about this type of stuff. I'm whatever.
No,
he did not like the first one with the blood and all.
Well, so
was it still kicking?
No, so we walk up to it, and it's doing the I can't breathe kind of thing.
It's filling up,
and it's kind of spitting up blood and everything. And it's weird because Stitch, the little
the dog,
the little hunting dog, who you would never assume is a hunting dog.
No,
It's
those are what those dogs are made.
It's
a
crazy.
Jack Russell Terrier.
Yeah, it's crazy. I didn't know
well,
that. So.
it's
something like that.
It's a cousin of the
Yeah.
Jack Russell.
And she's going up and gnawing at it and stuff, and this thing's dying, and it was kind of like wow, that first of all, holy shit, is that a big animal?
Yeah,
and it's it's dying and stuff, and it didn't take long to die. You didn't have to shoot it again.
I don't remember. I had to watch the video footage.
Yeah, you didn't have to shoot it.
I just remember those two shots and then running, and it was down. Yeah, I don't think I did.
But that was the first time I saw an animal being dressed, gutted in the
that's the part Thomas didn't like.
Well, no, it's not that I didn't like it. It's just there was one thing in this whole trip that I didn't like, but gutting it wasn't a problem. It's just I just never saw it before.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it was. I didn't have any negative feelings about it or any positive feelings about it. I was just kind of indifferent to it, and I was watching it, and I was like, God damn, Lou Goodman's knife fucking rules.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just it was a wild experience.
That was awesome. Yeah, Desmond said that was the best knife he ever used.
Yeah, that's a good knife.
Some animals are just durable.
Yeah,
they
man.
don't want to die. Like that sheep that I shot, I had to put a contact shot on it when I got up on it. It just didn't want to die. And but a big animal is different. I saw a bison get shot, and we were right up on it as it's going. It's it's a heavy thing. It's not.
That's a big animal.
Yeah, and it certainly fucking was. And it's just a heavy thing. So I was curious because I know. I mean, I'm sure you'd seen like whatever things get hit by cars or whatever, but I didn't know if you had seen a up close an animal die yet.
No, that was the roan was the first one, and it was like it was whatever, and we got to eat it.
Yeah,
That was.
It's
like,
just a different. It's not like a good or bad experience, whatever. It's just a heavy. I mean, you're.
Well,
I knew why I was there.
I can get why people don't like it, but it's also like if you eat meat, you like leather, all these things. I mean, hunting is the best conservation to me. Like I don't ever want anything to suffer.
Yeah,
you always want to make the best shot. I mean, it just doesn't always happen, and part of it is I don't want to track anything, and then the other part is if it needs another shot, I want to get there quick and put it in it.
Yeah.
Like it's and it's when I was very young, and I've said it a lot of times before, like I was pretty liberal, like I never would have killed anything, like all that. I didn't grow up around that stuff, but then like learning it and understanding it, it's just. Yeah, it's just part of it, and somebody's got to do it. Like if you like hamburgers, man, somebody's got to kill that cow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And roan, it's fucking tasty, man.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's delicious. Not gonna
Very
lie.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, which it's so great. I don't know. They've got 20-something species of large animals on that property, and most of them are very good.
Yeah. I didn't like. I wasn't like the biggest fan of sable. Sable was kind of like tough to me.
That's probably old or something like that.
Yeah, probably.
Animal. I don't know. I don't even remember this sable. But
Well, there was one night they gave us 3 different meats, and they told us which one was which.
Oh.
We had eland, sable, and roan. Roan and eland. Ooh, boy.
eland is
That's
delicious.
another big animal too.
So the second hunt that we went on.
What do you want to do the buffalo story? You want to tell the buffalo story to me?
Let's hear both sides. Let's hear.
All right.
your-
We'll take it
your
step by
angle
step.
and
So the roan,
Oh.
I had the 16-inch 8.6 fix. Excuse me. With 160 grain TTSX. So tipped Barnes bullets.
Right.
Pop, pop. So the buffalo had a limited supply of 210 grain TSX, non-tipped,
Right.
supersonic, 16-inch fix. That Voodoo 1-8, shout out to them. Thank you, Big Hamp and JB, for the 1-8. Had that thing on 1 power with the dot on there. The 210s loaded up, the Buffalo Slayers. And so this was the herd buffalo in a herd on their property
That's what I heard.
that had been challenged several times, and it is getting older, and he had hurt and injured and killed several other buffalo tried to get with a herd of cows. Because the way the buffalo work is there'll be a big herd of cows, and there is one bull that's in there that breeds them, and he fights every other bull that comes around once they come into heat.
Kind of like you,
Mhm.
Jay.
Yes.
Yeah, so big flock of ladies, bunch of big cows there waiting for him.
Yeah.
No offense to you ladies, I'm sure you're all quite lovely. So he had been kicked out from my trip with Field Ethos and all the boys to this one by a younger bull who's like now more in his prime, who was a monster, but he's the herd bull now. And they had lost. They had thought maybe he had killed the old herd bull because they hadn't seen him in 2 or 3 months since we'd left. And they found him about a month before, because, it's a pretty vast property. They found him about a month before I went back. And so I'm like, hey, I want to shoot one with 8.6. And they're kind of keeping an eye on him as they can once they find him.
They had guys in the hills like keeping an eye on it for like the first 2 days that we were there.
Yeah, they had a couple trackers on him watching him because, he could, just like that, he could disappear for a few months and you not see him.
Right.
And so they had someone on him all the time, basically watching him.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
we went and found him. We were like a ways away. We were probably the closest we got was probably like 400 yards from it. We have footage of us like on the opposite side.
The day before, earlier in the day.
Yeah,
maybe.
he was on the side of the hill, and we got really good footage of him just grazing on the side of the
yeah,
hill.
you have that footage.
Yeah.
You play it now.
Yeah,
It's
put it
so
up.
cool.
And we finally found it. Because like it took us a little bit. But then there he was all by himself. On the side of this hill.
Yeah. So the bulls, sometimes the younger ones, especially, be together. When it's an old bull that's been kicked out of a herd, he generally just is isolated and by himself.
Yeah. Sad old man.
But we were watching him come down the side of a hill, but I don't remember the reason. We didn't have like a good approach, and that's like you're not going to shoot a buffalo from far, and they're just so big and durable. You'd have to shoot him with like 50 BMG or something.
With something like that too, you have to really have a strategy. And I think we were just at this point just looking for him, and we found him. And then we were like, all right, there he is. Let's go eat lunch.
Because the trackers would see him like disappear into some trees or into kind of a little valley, and then they might not see him for half a day or a day.
Right.
So it wasn't like, they're just like watching him 100 feet all the time. So, and that's the fear. Like if you wound something like that and he goes into something thick, you got to go after him. They're very, very dangerous. Like they kill so many people, relative to other animals. Like a lion seems very scary. Far more people die hunting Cape buffalo.
Right.
It's just like by nature a nasty, gnarly animal that's just badass. I mean, its hide, so not like its skin is, like a half inch or an inch thick. So it's just a gnarly animal with a bad disposition.
He wants to hurt you.
Yeah. So it is a little different than most other animals. So anyway, I don't remember if that was the day before or earlier in the day, but we decide they know where he is, the general area, so we decide to go get him. And so we go meet up with the tracker who was watching him at the time. And it's me and Rad and the owner, Andrew. So he was videoing as well because he wanted the footage with their camera and a card from some of my previous hunts when I've been there. And Thomas and then Desmond, who is our tracker, who, this is his job.
Yeah.
And we go talk to the tracker, and the tracker said there was a dried, like, creek bed running up this valley. And he had tracked him all day, and he said he's been in this creek bed for a long time, and he's heading in this direction. And the last he saw him, from where we saw him, he said it was about a quarter mile up, was the translation. Is that what you remember? That's what I got out of it. And so
we were prepared for a quarter mile hike.
Yeah, so quarter mile up. But as soon as we start down in this dry creek bed, there was in some water. We probably got 50 or 75 yards from him.
Easily 50.
There was a herd of 6 or 8 younger bulls in the water.
And this is where it started to get real for me, right? So, like, again, this is my second hunt ever, and we're going after the scariest fucking thing in Africa.
Black Death.
And and we are a single file line. Everybody's super serious. This is like everybody's like got their game face on.
Because they're telling us, and they're telling us to be prepared. Yeah. Like all these things. And with that said, too, I've never been on a Cape buffalo hunt. Yeah. Something I've always wanted to do. We did it now to test 8.6 and to do this hunt, decide to do it. But, I've watched videos, I've read the stories, and I'll listen to the PHs. And they're telling me the whole time, like, you need to be prepared. We're going to shoot them at 20 yards or in. Yeah. And I just thought that was normal. Right. But I had never been in close proximity to him. So I'm with Thomas as he tells his story.
Everybody's got their game face on. It's high alert. We walk down into this riverbed. It has water in it, but some parts don't. It was really dry there this time of year. And we start walking down, and then there's this herd of buffalo just chilling. And they're like 50 yards from us, and we're not after them. We're walking by. We're just kind of going the opposite direction. But they see us, and they know that we're there. We know that they're there. And then they start moving, like as a herd. They start moving up.
There was the one, too. He kind of came out, and it looked like he might come towards us the way, at least what Thomas and I.
At that point, and then Kevin and I talked about it later. At that point, I was like, oh, shit. Like, I'm worried about these things now. I'm like, I even forgot about the one we're going after. I'm like, they're right fucking there.
Yeah, and they had prepped us on, so there's 5 of us, and there's only Rad and I with guns. But, they had talked about, like the owner and his wife, they have a trail for running. And like a few weeks before they were running, and they jumped a buffalo that was in the bushes right off the trail, and they both had to climb in a tree for 30 minutes. Yeah. And so they're like telling us, It's going to be close. You have to be prepared. If stuff goes wrong, here are the things that you do. And then right away, this is what we see.
Yeah. And then so we continue walking up, and they're like kind of moving off to the other side.
Are they paralleling you, or are they kind of going away?
We're going up this trail, and then they're going this way.
Yeah, they're kind of pissing this way.
And while we're walking this way, they like disappear behind the trees, and I'm like, everybody's like so focused on going this way, and I'm like, are we gonna?
Yeah, it's only like 70 yards to disappear. We don't
Right.
know where they are, and they're kind of angling us, but they might have been going across, we don't know.
Yeah, so
Right.
from the jump, I'm like, what about those over there? Like, are we thinking about them at all? Like, I'm already high alert.
But Andrew and Rad, they're the pros, and like I was freaked out too. But then it's like, well, if they're not more freaked out, I need to let it go.
Yeah.
Like,
They're not gonna
they've been
put you
doing it
in.
a long time.
Wasn't so easy for me, but we kept on moving. We got some cool shots going through the woods, and it was kind of like a damp day. I did say it was dry, but this day it was kind of like rainy and wet, but not enough for like the river to
Right.
be.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're going through, and it's we're probably walking for maybe 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Yeah, there's some stuff said then between Andrew and Rad. And I don't remember if I just didn't hear, if it was an Afrikaans or something. And Rad, so we're all single file now, and it's Rad, or PH, me, Andrew, Thomas, and Desmond, our tracker. And Rad turns to me, and we're in the creek bed, and it's thick in there, which is why you're kind of high alert, because in some areas you can only see 10 yards.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a down tree beside us, in front of us, kind of obscuring the left of the creek bed beyond us. And Rad turns to me right then, and he's like, hey, because before that, all I'm doing is staying, like what Rad wants in these situations, and what he told me to do is stay as close to him as I can. Don't step on any fucking sticks or rocks, make any noise. Stay close to him as we approach and we start stalking. So I'm not really looking around much or noticing my environment that much. I'm trying to stay right on him, and that's his job at that point. So when he says that means create a little distance and be looking around as well. And so that happens. Rad takes off, and there's this down tree. He goes beyond it, and we have about 10 yards of separation at this point. I step out from behind the bush and up. So we're in the dry creek river thing, and there's a bank that's maybe like 18 inches, 2 feet tall. And there's a little tree that's maybe 6 or 8 inches in diameter with 2 branches about 2 feet off the ground that are parallel with us, and they branch out like this. And Rad had walked past it, and the buffalo we're looking for is less than 10 yards from us, asleep, laying down, facing us broadside on the other side.
I have
that
footage.
tree.
I have
Yes.
footage of Kevin double taking. Like he looks,
Yeah, 'cause
continues
Rad-
walking, and then he looks again, and he tries to signal for Rad, and Rad turns around, and then it is just from that point on. Like I have to give kudos to Kevin here, because he didn't flinch. He put his ear pro on, it was just chill. Now I didn't notice at first, right? I didn't see
Because they're all obscured still by the bush.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
why Rad didn't
Right.
see it
Well,
or anything.
I saw the clip, and Rad, it looks like he looks that direction, but he just keeps going.
Yeah.
You looked over, looked back, and then double took. And
So the
signaled for him.
the buffalo.
So
is
they couldn't
sleeping.
see yet.
Right.
Yeah. So the buffalo's like sleeping, like laying down at
Yeah.
least.
He
And
was sleeping. He
and-
had his eyes closed when I saw him.
But then when I noticed Kevin, and because I'm filming,
Right.
and when I noticed Kevin like getting ready, I'm like, oh shit, what's going on? And I look, and I can just see the things. What do you call it, boss?
Oh, the
The
boss
boss
is
on the
or
front.
the
Yeah,
horns
the
on
boss.
the head.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
the
can
boss
just
on the front.
see it, and it starts to like move a little bit. And at that point, I'm like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden,
Well, wait a minute. I can't wait to see this, because I've not seen any footage, because Andrew has the footage all the way up until he gets up and raises it. But at this point, my memory and recollection is I gather Rad, get him back. I'm in line with the buffalo, and the tree is between us, and Rad is beside me, and we end up having to like make a noise or something to wake him up. and he wakes up, and we're standing there, and we're still. So there's this little tree between us with a couple limbs, and so he can see us, but he's opening his eyes and kind of blinking a little bit, and he's going up and down trying to capture us, and he can't really make it out at first, and he stands up, and everything, and he takes a step, and he puts his head down, and he takes another step towards us, and that's where it's on.
At this point, I'm thinking in my head that I'm gonna watch Kevin die. I think I'm gonna watch Kevin get fucking steamrolled by this thing because.
But they told me this is the way it was gonna be, so I'm thinking, this
but
is
Kevin,
what's supposed to happen.
Kevin he's like focused. I am shaking. Right, I'm not thinking about anything else except the fact that I'm gonna watch my friend Kevin die, and then all of a sudden I see.
Funny because you know what I'm thinking is I haven't looked back and I don't know where anyone is. But I'm like, I've got a shot here. If he goes this way, I don't know where those guys are, so I got to be careful where I shoot.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, I see our tracker, Desmond, in a tree. I look up, Desmond is in a tree, and Desmond does this for a living.
Yeah.
Motherfucker's in a tree. And I go...
He says, I have children.
Yeah, he says, I have small children. He doesn't speak like great English at all. But I'm like, oh, shit. So I immediately go, yeah, that's a good idea. So I get up around the tree so that I at least have something.
Right.
And all this commotion, like the thing's standing up, Kevin's about to put one in his chest.
See, I don't ever look back, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I never.
Well, yeah, because you're like you were told like, hey, it's gonna be close, so you're gonna get a shot. Like you're gonna get an opportunity to get a shot. So I would imagine you go, oh, here's my opportunity for the shot. I'm gonna take this one.
We were told it was gonna be close.
Yeah, it was gonna be close, and so once I knew that was him and it was on, like I wasn't gonna take my eyes off of him. Because, I mean, I do know this is something that can kill me, but I had maybe a false sense of security because I thought it was supposed to be this close. Right. Because at this point where we are, he's 9 yards from us. Yeah. So he's the length of this room from us, which it seemed even closer. And there's a 6 or 8 inch tree, which he could easily knock over between us. And these little branches, that there was only 2 on the tree, and they were maybe a couple inches in diameter, sprouting out both this way. And I'm looking around the tree to look at him, and he was broadside when he was laying. He got up, and he turned towards us, and he's facing us. And he's still trying to make us out. He's not sure. And Rad, to me now, we're shoulder to shoulder, and he has his rifle. And you don't want your PH to ever shoot. I mean, sometimes it's mandatory on a dangerous animal, but you don't want him to shoot like you want to do it.
Yeah.
And Rad says to me at one point, and I'm waiting for him to say something to me, but he had told me, he's like, don't shoot it in the head. Like normally braining it's a good shot, but we're testing this bullet, and we knew this one had giant bosses on its head. Yeah. You know, it's old and larger than normal. And if you hit the bosses, like, because you want to shoot a couple inches below them, but, it's very easy to miss by that much. Yeah. You hit the bosses, the bullet's not penetrating,
right? Yeah,
and you're just fucked. You've got this animal that can kill you,
and
that
is
now is
angrier,
and is after you. And so he had told me that, and so I had asked about a chest shot, and he said, they're I don't remember if it's some sort of plate, but they're very thick here, and that's a tough shot on a buffalo. And he wanted me to go in the crease of the shoulder, and so where I am, I do not have any shot but his chest or his head.
Yeah,
and had I known that 9 yards was unusual, I would have shot him in the fucking forehead and it'd been lights out. But so Rad's sitting here, and I'm waiting for him to say something to me. And I mean, this happens like, it seems like a lifetime, but it's literally a split second. And his barrel is like this to me. And he's like, Kevin, you're going to have to shoot this thing. And so, okay. I said, okay. And so I put my hand under his barrel. I was like, can you move your barrel? I need to get on the other side of you.
Stone focus.
And I push his barrel up, and I ease over. And I don't have, like, the perfect shot, but I can see the crease in the shoulder, and I go for it, and bam. I pop him with the 8.6 with the fix, and he jumps, and he turns to go away, and I instantly run around the limb, because to me, like, I don't like tracking him. I don't want to get it away. I don't want him to get in a situation where we get eyes off of him and he's wounded.
So get another one into him.
And and then I'm like, oh God, where are all the guys? And I'm like, I can't see anybody else, but I'm still maybe 10 yards from him, and all I can see is his ass, and they're large, so I see his belly, and they're broad in the front, and I go around the tree. I have enough of an angle. I mean, it is slight to sneak one in behind the shoulder, and then once he was down, we saw the bullet went like 12 inches along his belly, then into his shoulder. It was, I got lucky with that. It was a good shot, and he turns around instantly and puts his head down, and Rad is right on my back, beside me on my back the whole time. And he turns around, turns towards us, and puts his head down to like come at us, and it gave me enough of an angle. I put another one in this shoulder, and he jumps in the air, and he holds this shoulder up, and I had a good angle again. I put another one in him instantly, and he's down. And
it busted his shoulder up. He landed on his shoulder and immediately collapsed on it. And in all this commotion,
and I mean, and this is literally like
a
a second and a half or 2 seconds.
Yeah,
it
as
seemed
fast
like
as
a
you
long
can rack
time.
the bolt, basically.
Yeah.
all this commotion, I'm filming, but I never hit record.
Yeah.
And I don't blame myself. I don't.
I blame yourself.
This was the second hunt I've ever been on. I thought and I was fully prepared to see a buffalo at 20 yards, get the shot, like make it happen. But I was fully unprepared for what was about to happen, and I like tried my best, but I was like scared. I was like for real, actually terrified. And I thought that I was gonna watch Kevin get hurt. I thought I was gonna watch Rad get hurt. I thought that I was going to get hurt. I thought that this was going to be like just, especially seeing the tracker in a tree. I was filming, and I never even looked to see if I was recording.
Yeah, and so Andrew, as soon as he lowered his head to me and Rad, his memory card filled up.
Right before, so I have a really good shot from Andrew's camera of the buffalo.
Yeah.
I'll put it up right here. See him? Right here. It's massive.
I've not seen any of this.
I've seen, he showed me a couple.
Well, lucky
Anyway, so before we went on this hunt, I tried to give him one of my cameras, with so that I can have the footage immediately, and he wanted to use his 1987 fucking Panasonic camera, and
it came free with the purchase of a Buick.
Yeah, and he and I was like, no, for real, like use my camera. It's lighter. It's it's nicer. You can shoot in 4K, whatever. And he's like, no, I really want to use my camera. And he's like, it's got like a handle on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it looks like a fucking mailbox.
It's literally from the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. And he was adamant about it. And this guy doesn't like change. He's a very good guy, but he likes his things his way, which is fine. I get it.
So both of my cameramen totally blew it.
So as soon, he's getting shots, right? And he gets the buffalo after it stands up. And as soon as that happens, his memory card gets full. And if he were to take my camera, we would have had all the footage in the world, really good footage.
Thomas had press play and not climbed a tree.
And he was, and I was real down on myself afterwards because we went there for that. It was for that buffalo, and the fact that I went across the world to get the shot and I didn't get the shot, it weighed heavy on me. I didn't.
My first buffalo.
Yeah.
And the first buffalo with an 8.6, all the things that are heartbreaking happen.
Yeah. And
is anyone going to schwack one on this next trip? Buffalo?
It's expensive.
Yeah, it's like $12,000.
12.5 or something if we can find one. But it's expensive. But well, on the next trip. But I'll probably, I want to shoot something. We're talking about the history of Africa and everything. So there's Griffin and Howe rifles for plains games, and there's the double rifles, and a real one were the London companies, London's best, back in the early 1900s, and that's sort of Hemingway, Roosevelt, a traditional way to do it, and I want to do it with one of those, so I think I'm going to shoot this one with the double rifle. Because I don't know. I don't want us to have a hunting show, so it's like, I should shoot with the fix. Well, I did it once, but I will with the lion. But I want to take some dangerous game with the double. I think the double, it's just part of the African experience. But this hunt, that was an exciting time. And then, I had no idea. I knew that was pretty close. But, telling Thomas afterwards, it's like, if Rad and I have guns and we're not running, don't run. Easy to say when you're to somebody when they're holding a camera and not a gun.
I didn't run.
Yeah, but also
I
like you've never.
I strafed.
Yeah, but
to
you
the right.
also have not been. I mean, I don't know what the most like in that regard dangerous experience you've been in before, but like you clearly have not been in that position before. So who like I wouldn't expect you to just stand there and go fuck it.
Anybody in my position at the time, like, and I'm not saying like I fucked up by like not hitting record because I was filming. I was literally like doing this, but you know,
if I had seen Desmond or Tracker run and climb a tree, I probably would have freaked out. But I'd just been prepped. This was what the experience was going to be. And then I generally do have the attitude of if I've got a gun that I'm confident in and I've got good ammo.
Well, also too, like I've never seen. So like I've pet a wild buffalo before, and I have I'll send you the picture. I've got
bison.
Bison, yes.
American
yes,
buffalo.
different, not a Cape buffalo. And I've got a selfie with it, a ripped one. And because I had never seen, I mean, there's signs all over the place saying don't get out of your car and touch the bison or whatever.
Yeah, that was pretty stupid of you to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But to me, I'm like, well, I've never seen a bison run anyone over and trample them, so it can't happen to me. And then, so I did it, and then literally the next weekend in that same area, a lady got trampled to death by one. So, like, you've probably never seen someone get stuffed by a Cape buffalo. So
No, I've seen it a bunch. Watch some YouTube videos.
Oh, well, because, like, for me, in my head, I'd be like, oh, that's not going to happen. Like, they've got guns. It's not going to happen. It's not going to trample
Well, I
us.
think there are people that will freak out even with a gun and stuff like that. And I don't know.
Until
I
you're
had
in that
confidence
position.
yeah, and I had
Right.
confidence in Rad, and I had confidence in me to do it. And it wasn't my first hunt that was dangerous. It was my first buffalo hunt.
Right.
And
It just happened to be close.
Yeah, it was very close. But, you know, I've shot hundreds of animals at this point, and I get it, and I'm willing to shoot until it's down. You know, that's another advantage of, like, hunting with the fix. Like, if you have a double rifle, you got 2 shots, and you have to reload in a way that, unless you practice all the time, like you're one of those
It's not natural.
3-gun guys, you have to take your eyes off the target and load the gun, and that, to me, seems very sketchy. Or even if you only had a Blouser or something that had 3 or 4 rounds, way better than 2.
But that's the thing, though, is you put more than 2 rounds into that buffalo.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, I've also learned when it's something like that, whether it's dangerous, you don't want it to get into some thick stuff where you got to go after it because that's where you can get hurt. Or if you don't want to track it down a damn mountain,
Yeah.
like you shoot until it's down.
Yeah.
Like ammo is very cheap relative to losing a $12,500
Or the
animal.
hospital bills of you getting
Yeah, or being killed.
Yeah.
That buffalo was a tough son of a bitch.
Oh,
I believe it.
Because after it was down, he was alive and he was moving. Like
yeah,
he was
let out. Remember that death moan?
Dude, the
Oh.
moan. I'll put it up right here.
Oh, you got
I got it. There it is. Jesus Christ. It sounded, you're like, and he wouldn't shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You're like, hey man, just go to sleep.
Yeah.
Go to sleep. And it was tough. And then what surprised me the most, like you said before, was when they were like cutting it open on its belly. Like when they cut open the skin was like half an or 3/4 of an inch to an inch thick, like on his belly. Thing was tough, like a rugged animal. And I was like, wow, he's thick, especially for being old. You know, he's
Right.
like an old motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough animal. I mean, it's an honor to be able to shoot one. It was really cool, the experience. You know, it's interesting. Remember we were at the airport, we met some other hunters, and a guy, it was his dream to go shoot a buffalo, and he shot one. And I was like, oh, you know, and I'm interested. And it's like, what'd you hunt it with? And at 375, I was like, how far did you shoot it? And he's like 120 yards. I was like,
That's right. And then I said, and you're like, yeah, I shot one too. And then he's like, well, how far was yours? And I interjected and I said, 9 yards. And they were like speechless. They're like, what?
Yeah.
but, you know, for me, you can do what the guy did, but I would never pay that much to do that.
Right.
Because if you read the stories, like the African stories, and what's exciting about those hunts is the close proximity.
Right.
Now, and some people would say it's stupid. Maybe they said about when we circle back to the Griffin and Howe rifles compared to new ones. Like maybe it's stupid because we can get the same thing out of the fix or a modern gun for a fraction of the price, and it's all handmade. But part of the experience of hunting the dangerous game is like you are up close. I think it's why people love bow hunting too, is you are up close and there's stuff that can go wrong. Like it is not efficient to bow hunt. Like it is extremely inefficient. But it's the experience that you want. And you get some of that with the dangerous game in Africa, and especially the buffalo. But, the big thing for us was proving out the bullet. In the first shot that I made that was a pretty hard angle, right into the crease of its shoulder, as soon as he died, it was in his opposite hip, and you could see it on top of the skin, and Rad reached down and felt it, and he or Desmond cut it out with the knife, and we got the bullet. And, so when we start thinking about how effective is 8.6 and the fast twist and that Barnes bullet. Right. That is a giant animal the size of this table, and it stopped in his hip going diagonally through him. Yeah. I mean, that one shot, he would have been dead. Right. We might have had to track him 300 meters and might not have gotten him till the next day, but that killed him. Right. And then, the other shots where I had, a more perpendicular angle to him, it was all the videos that I've watched, it was like shooting him with a 470 nitro or something like that. 8.6 is legit.
Yeah. 8.6, especially with the bigger animals, like with the eland, the buffalo, the roan.
The eland hunt, that was another great one. So that was our buffalo, and we talked about Desmond getting inside of him already to get the bullet and the cut esophagus and everything so he could get all the guts out.
The eland hunt was my favorite hunt that we did.
It was?
Yeah.
So eland is, let me interject and you tell your story. So eland is the largest antelope in Africa. Like they're 1,500, 2,000 pounds or so. They're huge. They're a light tan color. They'll kind of stand out, and you'll see them on the side of a mountain or somewhere, and you think, oh, okay, they're going to be easy, but there's all kinds of trees and stuff, and it's a large, large animal. So, I'm hunting with a 16-inch 8.6, and, I've got good dope to about 400, and we would get 500 yards from them, maybe 450, and then they would go 500 yards.
They're also like incredibly skittish, so skittish that when they see like other animals running for some reason, they will start to run, even though they don't know what they're running for. Like that was something that Rad was telling us. Like so, like we had to be careful of like other creatures in like as well. Like so, like there was a bunch of zebra, right? And we were after eland, but there was zebra around, and we were trying hard not to spook the zebra because they'll spook the eland. Mm-hmm. It's tough.
Yeah. And so we spent a couple of days going after eland.
Yeah.
And it was that scenario. We would spot them, we would glass, we would stalk, we would get to a spot and where we would try to make a final stalk to get within 300 yards, let's say. And we would get to 450, and those fuckers would take off 500 yards. Yeah. In bushes and trees, so you can't see them the whole time. Yeah. And it would be in terrain sometimes, like on mountainside, so it is very difficult.
That was like the most part was like the fact that it was like we were in like mountainscapes doing this, and it was my favorite hunt because like for the first time, this was probably about the middle of the whole trip. This was like the first time that me, Kevin, Rad, and Desmond were like a good hunting party, right? Like everybody was doing their job. Everybody was like, we were on point. We were moving with each other. We were doing we were for real, like a team, right? And like everybody's looking out for each other, making sure like I'm okay, I'm getting the shot. Everybody's working together to get, because we're there for market.
Oh yeah, we almost had a shot. We were trying to get you to get the. Yeah.
So I have this all on tape, and I have
because I think the first we saw them in the morning as we were going up, and then we were on top of the mountain. We saw them from down. We tried to make a stalk going down, but then they took off. We went down, and we had to try to come back up.
We made like 3 or 4 stalks to get close, and there was 3 or 4 times where the Kevin was on the sticks, hand on the trigger, ready, and we were so quiet, and like we were sometimes really close to them, but then they kept moving away from us, and we kept having to move.
And it was a herd, and there was one particular bull we were after, and they would stay together, and so sometimes you just have a little window to shoot through, and then picking out the actual bull we want to shoot to not shoot the wrong one.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was not wide open, right? So that we were behind like a kind of like a tree line. They weren't like big trees, but it was like a bush line, if you will, but like bigger bushes, and I couldn't see, and I'm filming Kevin. I have like the tripod set up with the other camera on target, but I'm filming Kevin and I can't see shit. Like there's like a small window, like where Elin and I was looking at the footage, the Elin are walking back and forth through this window. And like no wonder it took forever because like, there was no shot.
Right.
Like there was a shot every 5 minutes for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So like we did this 3 or 4 times. And each time we got closer and closer.
And with a big animal like that, and especially in the mountains, like it's hard to make the perfect shot, even a small percentage of the time, but you do not want to make a bad shot on an animal that big in the mountains.
No, yeah.
Also,
I mean, it can be a full day recovery.
The Elin, once they start going, they'll fucking go to Mozambique.
Yeah, you wouldn't think, but like an eel, this giant animal, it's like it couldn't run, can jump an 8-foot fence.
It's an antelope, yeah.
And they can keep running.
Yeah.
Even if they're like shot, they're going to keep going. That's what Red was telling us.
Yeah.
If we shoot it and lose it, it's gone.
Right. Were you shooting off sticks most of the time?
It depends on the shot. It's probably a good mixture of prone is probably the smallest percentage, but offhand or on sticks is probably 50-50. It depends on the hunting environment. Like sometimes, like with this, if we're hunting in the bush, like in a thick area, there would be a fair amount of shots offhand, and they're generally 100 yards, 150 yards and in. And anytime I can get on sticks, you want to get on sticks. But, once it gets over like 300 yards, shooting off sticks,
not easy.
It's not optimum, but sometimes it's what you got.
Yeah.
And that's where the practicing, where we talked about, and I made an Instagram post about us going to Griffin and Howe and training with Mike Murphy. Like you go and they got a 900-yard range, the primary range that he works. And they've got like all the animal targets, all the stuff, all the distances, angles, everything. And they have barricades up, vehicles, because shooting off the hood in Africa is a thing. You can hunt any way you want. You can shoot from the back of the truck, you can shoot from the hood, you can shoot from away from the truck on sticks, you can wait and get prone. But sometimes it's just like your opportunity. If you want a certain animal, a target presents itself. Yeah. What do you have in the next 5 seconds? And that's where practicing all of these different things and understanding the fundamentals and practicing those, because I know them. And when I don't practice much for a year and I go on a hunt, like you forget them and you fall back into bad habits, and that sucks. Like you don't want to do it. And so if it's like we just went down, in this past weekend after the
PRS match. Precision rifle. Yeah.
Precision rifle. That Griffin and Howe put on. We, and you guys shot in it. The next day we stayed, and Mike, with me and the engineers, he did a big game hunting train up for us. Yeah. And we were shooting off sticks and barricades and proper position and, and proper support to be able to shoot in these, unconventional ways that when you go to the range, you shoot from a bench or you shoot prone, and all the other ways that are practical and what you're going to encounter in Africa, shooting out to 500 yards.
Yeah. That you just talked about, that truck that you talked about, everyone will see it when it gets thrown together. That thing kicked all of our asses in that match. At least until we got to the hood. The hood, we would all crank one off. I
think it was a Tahoe or what. But the thing is, the window's out. But I think you guys, too, like not understanding, like lock your legs out, use bone on bone, try to get steady. And also, you guys were like, that was your last thing. If it had been at the beginning of the day, that was one of the more difficult things. You probably all would have done better. But if you shoot from a bench and prone and you shoot lights out, okay, shoot some positional shooting. Let's see how you do, big boy.
Yeah.
Like you better have some technique and you better practice. It's kind of like golf.
Yeah.
You might be natural at it, but if you don't practice, you're not gonna have the same success as somebody that does it every week.
Yeah. Yeah, and that will show it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah, so the eland. So what about this eland hunt?
Well, we did, like I said, we did like the 3 or 4 stalks, and each stalk was great, and they never knew we were there. We just couldn't get the shot, so we had to keep moving. And then
we tried hard not to spook them for what Thomas was saying, because they fuck off to the next mountain.
And then the day's wasted. But finally, we were like in like...
So this is like crawling, The whole thing all day, like
and
real stalks.
We were like in the armpit of a mountain. Like it kind of like was like a 90-degree angle, but not.
Right, I got you.
And they were up on this mountain, and they started to work their way around towards us, like walking up on this little trail up there. And they were actually starting to come around us. So what we had done was we worked out a strategy to kind of cut them off and work our way up that hill that they were coming exactly towards. So we like cut them off and we like kind of moved up.
Generally you do this and they make just a slight adjustment and they fuck right off.
Yeah.
But luckily for us is like they came right, like we met them.
Yeah.
Right.
It's one of those things. If you do enough stalks on a certain amount of day and they don't know you're there, eventually it's going to work out. Like we had 4 failures, maybe 3 or 4, and then the 4th or 5th one just happened to work.
I wouldn't even call them failures. You just couldn't get the.
No,
you just
did
get
a good stalk.
You couldn't get the shot, and we never spooked them or anything. So I wouldn't consider it a failure. I would just consider it like hurdles, obstacles.
Easy for the skinny guys.
But finally, we were at this like little bit of like a crossroads, and all of a sudden,
well, we had to. What he's leaving out because it wasn't hard for him. We had to run up this mountain to get in position.
Right.
And I was about to pass out. It was horrible. I thought I was going to have cardiac arrest.
Yeah, man, that was You got to work on your cardio for next time.
I know. I've been doing the rower in there.
Good. But then so all of a sudden there's this clearing, right? And we have it all on tape, so you're gonna be able to see it. But there's like this clearing, and we see our bull, and for some reason, like he's not even with the rest of the herd anymore. Like he's just chilling by himself now, just walking, minding his own business. At this point, like, and we've been fighting this whole time to be like within 200 yards. All of a sudden, we're 50 yards from this thing, right? And there's this perfect little clearing that he is walking.
He says clearing when his head. Okay, so when his head popped out, when his head went behind the next bush of the clearing, his ass was still behind this.
Yeah,
so what we had was a hole to shoot through, basically.
Which is, I mean, up here, that's how you.
Yeah, and so you had to identify, and then you had 1 second.
Yeah.
That his vitals were in that hole.
It was such a small window of time, but luckily Rad put up the sticks. Kevin got on there, and it was just such a beautiful shot. He walked. All you see,
and he could have taken 2 trails, and the other trail we wouldn't have had a shot.
Yeah, so it was a perfect scenario, and Kevin was right on there, 8-6. Oh, and then all you hear is Rad go, "Smoke him," and he did too.
Yeah.
And he fucking hit him one time, one shot.
Yep.
Hit the deck, dead. It was amazing. And when we walked up onto it, and there was like high fives. And obviously every time Kevin shoots something, he's like, "All of you suck. I'm the best." And it's like hilarious. But like we walk up on this thing.
This never happened.
It's there. When we walk up on this thing, it is like a Clydesdale horse.
Oh yeah, they're big.
It is the biggest animal I've ever seen.
It's big.
It is so fucking massive. And
it's
like
as massive as Thomas's exaggerations.
I'm playing the clip right here. This is Kevin right after the hunt.
And you lazy fuck didn't even want to climb the hill.
Yeah. And
what did I say to Rad?
You said something like yeah, you basically said he sucks. I have to do all the work. It's just like, yeah.
It's like because I didn't want to do this last talk. I was like, it's bullshit. He's like, I gotta go. I gotta try one more time. I'm like, I don't want to. And he makes me do it, and then I pretend it was like my idea. That's right.
And what was funny about this, so like Rad has to go get the car. We have to mark it. It's too big. We have to get a bunch of guys.
It's not a car. It's a Land Cruiser.
I'm sorry, Land Cruiser. He has to go get the fucking, yeah. Anyway, so it's huge. They like wrestle it around to like get the shot or whatever. Then Rad leaves to go do whatever, get the truck, the Land Cruiser. And then Desmond, it's just me, Desmond, and Kevin, and they're cutting it open. And this thing's huge, right?
Yeah.
And so Desmond
takes a team.
Desmond's by himself cutting this thing open, and he asks Kevin, he's like, and he sucks at English. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He speaks Cosa.
Yeah.
And so he asks Kevin to hold up the leg, and this leg it's a big creature. So Kevin's like holding up the leg.
The leg literally weighs like 200 pounds.
Yeah, it's like a lot. So Kevin's holding it, and he really has to piss, right? And he's holding it up, and he's kind of like fucking fidgeting. He's like, "Oh man, I really don't want to do this. I don't," because like, he doesn't want to do it. Whatever. So I'm like, I'm not doing shit. I'm filming Desmond do the thing. So I was like, Kevin, I'll take the leg, man. Take.
Which is the first time the whole trip Thomas had touched an animal. So I was very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I was just like, fuck it, like give it to me. You're obviously like having a time. I'll take a break. You know, you did all right because they wrestled this thing into position.
I mean, I'm holding it up for like, and I almost got the tripod shooting stick, which I should have to hold it up.
Yeah, it was.
We're on the side of a mountain, so it's like 10 or 15 minutes. I'm holding it up. Like it was long enough to where my elbow and shoulder were strained for 2 days. I'm like, ah.
So I went over there and I said, "Let me hold it," and he's like, "Oh, thank you," you know, and I'm holding it, and like I'm holding it for maybe like 5 minutes, you know, whatever, and it's heavy. You know, I fully agree. It sucked. But then Desmond's like, he has to get in there, and he needs somebody to hold up
with the buffalo.
He needs somebody to hold open the stomach flaps, which are fucking
the rib cage.
Right,
and
yeah. So
I mean, I've got to reach in the animal.
Yeah.
And I'm holding the leg, and there's only one guy left.
Which it was so funny because I would have preferred to do that because it wasn't as strenuous as holding the leg up.
But it was gross.
But if I was thinking, man, that's good living, Thomas. Because it's literally, Thomas said he'd hold the leg. I was like, oh, thank God. I take a piss. As soon as I'm done pissing, Desmond's like, hold its ribs. I'm like, oh, okay. And so I hold it open, you know, and I'm having to like reach inside and everything. And I was like, Thomas, that's good living. Because if Thomas had to reach in, like, I think he would have done it, but he would have cried and freaked out.
I wouldn't have slept. I just thought it was so awesome that I offered to hold the legs and then found out I didn't have to hold open the stomach flaps. It was awesome. This is so gross.
That was pretty good, but that's one, and I don't know if I sent it to you. If not, then I will, and you post it up, unless you think YouTube will take it down, but the heart shot. So, I mean, it was a good shot. We were close, and I got lucky, and it's right through the heart, and, you know, I mean, that's why I didn't go anywhere.
That was a good shot,
yeah. And, I mean, you see the hole that 8.6 put through this thing's heart. Didn't have a chance.
Did you put it through the shoulder, or was it right behind it?
No, it was behind it.
Yeah.
No, my favorite is, I mean, it depends. You know, a big animal like that, it's different than shooting a whitetail through the shoulder. And so letting its leg go forward, hitting the crease behind the shoulder is the good spot. Like, if you can break the shoulder, that's great, but you might not reach the vitals, and those things can run on 3 legs.
Right.
So if you break the shoulder on a big animal like that, you want to get the penetration to get to the lungs or the heart too. And, I mean, it's hard. Like a whitetail, there's, you know, any decent cartridge will break both the shoulders. You're fine.
Right.
Something with only 2 legs ain't gonna run, but 3 legs.
Yeah.
See, none of that, like having the animal get cut open or anything, that didn't bother me, like I said before. But the one thing that did fuck with me, we shot a fallow deer, and we went down, and Kevin.
Oh, that was so scary.
Well, yeah. Okay, so fuck. There's a whole thing about this. All right, so before, so we're down there.
Oh, this was so great. But even the setup to the fallow. What about the setup to it? You want to start with that, or are you just getting out to the fallow?
I have a point to make. Then
All
we'll go
right,
back.
right.
So, like, what did fuck with me is we shot a fallow deer, which was a whole day of just shenanigans. But when we got down there, Kevin didn't. You know, he wanted skull mounts. That's his thing. That's what he wanted out of all these things. I think you got a couple.
Yeah, look how good it looks.
Yeah, they look great. So you want the skull mounts.
You got to see him lob that.
Yeah, because
off.
I'm not building like a mansion over there. I'm
Right.
building a lodge, and it's like I
And
kill
that's
like
cool.
100 animals. I want to put the skulls somewhere.
And again, I don't see shit like this. And
Only
like
one way to get that.
and dressing the animals and whatever, like that's fine. Like it didn't fuck with me. But we're chilling down there, and they say, "What do you want to do with it?" And Kevin goes, "I want the skull mount." And they go, "All right." And this thing's got a big old rack, fallow deer,
Yeah, like
big
paddles.
old,
Like
big
paddles.
old
Yeah.
thing.
Antlers.
And it's nuts. So
Only thing in Africa with antlers because they were imported.
So they go, okay, cool. And then Desmond takes out Lou Goodman's knife. Shout out Lou Goodman. It's a nice knife. And decapitates this fucking thing right there.
Only one way to get
Just
the skull.
cuts the head off right there. Just with a knife, not like a fucking guillotine. A knife. He's just hacking this thing's head off. And I'm sitting there.
Ain't hard with that Lou Goodman knife.
No. Lou Goodman, it's a good knife. It's good for cutting heads off. And I'm looking at that and like, you know, I'm not queasy or anything. There's nothing like that. But I'm like, yep, he's cutting the head off that thing. Yep. And it was gnarly. And I've never seen anything like that before. And
First time for everything.
yeah. And like it's nothing to anybody except me. I'm sitting there just watching it.
No, people say that. I mean, but I think it's like the Grand Canyon. Same with decapitation. Until you see it in person, reserve judgment.
Yeah. And then we gotta haul this body.
No, I like, that's good when you got to go down the mountain if that's the way you want it, because you only have to cape it out if you want a shoulder mount or whatever. I didn't want that, but if you cut the head off, somebody carries the antlers in the head. That's a lot of the weight, and the antlers on that thing were big and they were wide, and they'll hang up on a lot of stuff. Yeah. So then we throw the body, the headless body on the tarp, which they call a stretcher, and you drag it down the mountain. And it's just it's lighter and much easier.
Yeah. Dragging it down the mountain was a fucking feat,
too,
man.
Jeez, because it was dark at this point.
And I don't know if anybody, to our listeners and stuff in South Africa, especially where we are.
There's a lot of stuff that can kill you and eat you there.
And also the most abundant tree there is acacia.
Yeah.
Oh.
And acacia is a tree and a bush and grass.
It should be. That must translate to like ex-wife or something.
Yeah, dude. It is not. It's basically you take any tree you want, whatever, and line the branches and stems with 3-inch toothpicks, like actual spikes. Yeah. And they're not floppy or anything. They are rigid.
The trip before, when I got back, 3 weeks later, I pulled half of one out of my shin.
God, dude. And it's they will get you. And it's just everywhere. That's the most abundant tree. And when you're going through the bush, you're getting just stabbed the whole time.
I mean, you think at that point we had hunted all day. We come down the mountain 500 yards to find it, and then we have to drag it a quarter of a mile. You're so exhausted. Yeah. You aren't going to take all the time to go around. And there was no way to go around a lot of it, so you just start going through stuff. Yeah. And you end up bleeding everywhere and pulling these briars or spikes out of you. But, I mean, it's not you don't have to be the toughest dude. You just get exhausted, and you're like, fuck it, I'll take some briars.
You just got to care the least, yeah.
Yeah, there was one night where Kevin cut his head open, and he was bleeding all down his face. He didn't even know it. Because he took out running, sprinting. I've never seen him run so fast in my life. Turns out a man can run.
Oh, the warthog, yeah.
The warthog. We were going after a warthog, and... Oh, that's another thing that bothered me besides the decapitation. Somebody opened up a warthog.
Oh, it smells so gross.
I thought, dude, it was hard to breathe, hard to live.
It smells like sewer. Yeah.
It was the worst smell ever. But my man took off with a warthog through the woods at nighttime. It was dark, and he was full sprint through that. I'm trying to keep up with him, couldn't. Turns out, Usain Bolt over here. Turns out he can run. Who'd have thought? I mean, judging from his cardio.
I'm a specimen.
He is a specimen.
I'm a lion, man. I got that 1 to 200 meters.
Yeah, you got that. You got that mad dash, and then you're dead.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you want it, you got to get after it. Yeah, the fallow, though, that was great because Rad wanted to take us to this vantage point, and we were going to look over, and it's on top of this mountain, and you go down, and there's this big rock face cliff thing, and unfortunately that's where baboons generally live, and he wanted us to go there and just to see the view and for Thomas to fly the drone and get footage of this. It's 100-foot rock face, and it's on the edge of this mountain, and it overlooks the mountain and goes down the valley. It's just incredible, and hopefully you have footage? Okay.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So footage of that, and I've got a photo from our position as well. And the whole day when we're down in the valley, hunting and stuff, we're looking up at it. Oh, it's incredible looking. So we go on the top, and, it's 100 feet tall, but 100 yards or so below it, there's a field where in the evening, oftentimes there will be some, trophy animals. And so we get to the top of the mountain, and we're going to park and sneak over it, and we pull up. There are baboons in this field, and Rad was so mad. He didn't even want to go down there because they just run, and they climb over the rocks, and generally they just tell everything that there's people there, and all the animals fuck off, And so Rad's so pissed about the baboons. And I'm like, dude, who cares? Let's just walk over there anyway. And what you learn, just like I knew at my farm over time, you don't ever go anywhere without a gun. Mm-hmm. You just don't. When you get out of the truck, you have a gun. A jackal could run up, a baboon, anything. You just have a gun on you all the time when you're in South Africa. We get out of the truck and do it. We have to climb over a little barbed wire fence. They have cattle fence on this part of the property. And we climb down, we get on the rock face, and we're looking around, and it is magnificent. You're a view, and there's the wind hitting us, and it's just look over this valley.
The
and,
sun is setting.
Oh, and we're just enjoying life, and we're like, holy fuck! I can't believe you aren't going to bring us out here. It's incredible. Of course, there's, like you said, the baboons had run off all the animals that may have been down there if they were, and we're just standing there enjoying life, and all of a sudden he's like, freaking fallow deer, and Thomas and I are like, what are you talking about?
Per usual,
Yeah.
because we never saw anything.
And he's like, down there, you see the blood and the dip, and they're right in there. And it's, so we see them, we range 550 yards, and I love, so fallow deer generally, they're white, they are chocolate brown, or they are like a whitetail, like the tan color with spots on them. I love the chocolate brown ones, are so beautiful, and that's what they were. And I could see 3. It turns out there were 5 down there. And I forget what we had. Do we have to send Desmond back not for the gun? I think I had the gun. We sent him back for
you had the 8.6.
Oh, we sent him for the 6.5 because they were so far.
Yeah.
So we send Desmond, ask him to go back to the truck and grab the 6.5 because, if it was 100, 200 yards shooting with the 8.6.
Yeah, no problem.
And so I do, and just to see if we can get set up on it in time, and I'm comfortable with the shot, and we can shoot fallow deer.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but to be clear, we didn't have proper dope at certain distances for the 8.6.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it's not that the 8.6 couldn't get
Oh, you
there.
just said 8.6. I thought you meant in general. I was like, that sounds conducive to hunting.
No. So I had dope on 8.6 to 400.
Right. Yeah.
I was confident, and I had a 1 to 8 on the 8.6.
Yeah.
Well, this was 550 yards. So I had the Leupold 3.6 to 18 Mark 5 on it, and I had dope out to whatever 600-700 yards, and so confident with that. But then it was just a matter of we were on this rock cliff, and if I could get set up on it in time for the light, and I was comfortable, and they didn't move because they were in a gap that was maybe 15 to 20 yards wide. When you're 550 yards away, it looks like it's an inch. And, there were several big males there, and we'd picked a couple out that were good, and one of them, he just played the game right, and so I got set up on it. I felt good about the shot, and, man, it was awesome.
I got the shot, too, so this was, one of the first ones where I, really got the shot. I set up the tripod. I got it on target. And then Kevin one shot things down. I got him. I got the shooter. It was perfect. And just the scenery was amazing.
Oh, yeah, the view. We're on just top of the world, man.
But then we had to get down the mountain.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Oh, so that was great. So shout out to Horny. Thanks for that 143 ELDX. The 16-inch barrel, 550 yards, a giant fallow deer. Bam. So beast, he's down, one shot, worked great, and but then you got to go down the mountain, and the sun is setting, so there's some urgency, and it had rained. So this piece of property that they have in the Cowie Conservancy, it's kind of like a microclimate in this one valley. It's very lush, and there's a tremendous population of bushbuck and kudu there, and fallow deer, which fallow were brought, I think, by the Danes or something. By the Dutch in the 1700s over there, and now they're free range, but they have some really big fallow deer. Anyway, so it's there. So it had rained for a day or two over there. And we're on a mountain, and this is, like a dirt road, but it's I don't know, some brown kind of sticky clay stuff.
Yeah, all day, especially that whole day in Cowie, we were dealing with mud all day.
Yeah,
and
it's like this sticky mud.
Yeah, it's not like your normal
slick,
mud.
but not where it's messy. It's kind of like a clay is the point. And so we have to go down in a Land Cruiser now, and the fast way to get to it is a very steep road down.
All the roads on the mountains, whether we're in Cowie or on the Pringle property, were steep, and we're always a foot away from dropping off a cliff.
Oh, yeah. There are no guardrails there, and they cut a good road, but it'll be, if you mess up by a foot or two,
you're going down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were going down this mountain, and it's exactly that. Thin trails, maybe there's maybe 2 feet of margin on each side of the Land Cruiser. and it is slick. So we start going down and we start to slide a little bit, but we're not on the cliff face yet. And all of a sudden, like, you know, things start to get real. And Kevin and I are like,
Thomas had a foot on the roof.
yeah,
inside.
like we're like bracing ourselves because we're like going around these like steep corners, and he's sliding.
Yeah.
And like there's a part where we think
And
that
I
we're
was on the side of the deal, you know, the left side. You drive on the right there, so I was on the cliff.
and I'm behind Rad, and I'm filming all this, and we're going down, and we start to like really slide, but then we start to like get to the open cliff part of the mountain because like we were in the bush for a little while, but then we start to get on the side of this cliff.
Where there are no trees or bushes to save you from.
No, and all of a sudden the idea of going off this cliff is very real to all of us.
Well, it happened in stages. Desmond, so he's in the back on a high seat in the back of the truck. He's the professional. He's the tracker. He's the first to exit the vehicle.
yeah.
And that's actually when he said, "I have small children."
Yeah, he wasn't fucking around. And then we start to slide more. And the trick to doing this though is you have to kind of go faster rather than go slower.
Yeah, and you're sliding. You don't want to hit the brakes. You
No,
want to
yeah,
hit the
yeah,
gas.
yeah, yeah. Keep
At a
momentum.
certain point, we come to this curve, which is like it's not 90, it's like 135 degrees. It's like we have to go around this little. And
It's a 180 basically.
I said, I'm getting out. I'm getting out of this truck. I'm not staying in this truck. And Rad, you can see on his face that he's worried. Not only does he love his truck, he also loves his life.
Yeah.
And he's actually like visibly like scared. He's like a tough dude, super professional guy, but he was scared.
Mm-hmm.
And I got out the truck. Kevin saw me get out the truck. He got out the truck.
Yeah.
He
So
wasn't
it's
sticking
like
around.
Desmond gets out. We go like 100 yards, almost die in this turn. Thomas, we felt like it. Rad felt like he was in control, I think. And then we slide one more time. Like, yeah, I'm probably going to get out too.
Yeah, so we start walking behind the truck as it's going down. And then it kind of starts to like, you know,
The mountain does like this. So
Yeah.
We're getting to like this area.
So he's like, so Rad tells us to get on the truck. Like we don't get in the truck, we just are hanging off the back.
so you
And
can
I'm
hop off.
I'm filming the whole time. Like I have this all on tape of Kevin and I like on the very back, like standing on like the back bumper, going down this mountain as we're sliding. And it's all fun and games for a little while. Like we're giggling, laughing on the back of this truck. He's drinking a beer. I have one hand filming. But then there's a few frames of us like starting to slide again, going like pretty fast down this mountain, like relatively fast. And I have a few frames of Kevin, like actually, I'm gonna put it right here. This is Kevin, his face when we start to slide.
What
And
is it? I've never seen any of
Well,
this.
you'll see it. in
You'll
this
see it right
episode.
here.
Oh.
And it's like actual terror. Like we got on the back so that we could easily jump off.
Right.
It is a real situation that we're in. We're not like it's not fun and games. We're not we're laughing, but we're like at any point in time this truck is going to go off this really steep cliff.
Mhm.
And it was so sketchy. And when we finally get down to the bottom, Rad jumps out the truck. He says something. And he's like over it. He's like, "Oh my fucking God." And then, like, of course, Kevin's making jokes about like, you know, you're such a pussy,
It's
whatever.
over,
And but yeah,
It was so scary.
it was like a real situation that we
But
found
it's part of
ourselves
the
in.
adventure.
That's
I mean,
right,
it
yeah.
was fun.
It was definitely fun. We made it fun. A lot of the things that happened to us, like that were less than ideal, we made it fun.